right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Van. Happy Thursday, everybody. How we doing? Schultzy.
What is happening? Sorry, that was my best Dirt impression.
What? What was that?
That's what it was. It was my best Dirt impression. It was terrible.
It was.
Happy Thursday to you.
I thought you were going Budweiser.
What's that? Oh, those old commercials.
That's the way you started that. It was like, what? And I'm like, is he going to do a Budweiser intro here?
God, no. As a kid, like when I started out in radio at like 1920, yes, that would have been my go-to because that was the funniest thing in the world then to me. But no, I'm 34, going on 35. I've almost forgotten about that until you brought it up.
Those WhatsApp commercials, what was that like? Was that, I feel like a Ravens Giants Super Bowl was on my television around that time.
Am I right? Some Trent Dilfer quarterback action sounds about correct.
Yeah, maybe Kurt Warner Titans, Dilfer against the Giants. What would 01 have been? It would have been the Patriots Rams. It's somewhere in there, right?
Don't bring that up. Don't bring that up. There's 5 seconds left on that clock somewhere after that field goal got kicked.
You thought there were 5 seconds left?
I didn't think that actually, because there was, go look
when
at
they kick it, 8 seconds, 9 seconds?
Yeah, and because of that, the scoreboard just kind of score, whoever the hell's running the scoreboard, just let it tick off. They, I believe, passed a rule in the NFL to only allow 5 seconds to tick off whenever a field goal is kicked. So,
yeah, it wasn't that much longer after that.
No, and it's frustrating to this day as a Rams fan. Would they have scored? No, but hey, could have been another Music City Miracle on turf for the Rams.
You know, it's hard for me to feel bad for you when you had like a 4 or 5 year run of dominance offensively. You got to watch like fun football and you won a Super Bowl and got to another one.
But doesn't everybody want to just hold the thought in the back of their head that the Patriots dynasty could have had a kibosh put in it before everything even started?
Well, certainly things happen the way they were supposed to happen, but you could definitely make an argument, whether you're a Ram or even a non-Ram, you could definitely make an argument, Schultzy. They did cheat to win that game.
The Patriots in that game?
Yes, they filmed your practices.
I mean,
those were the tapes.
That is confirmed. Yeah,
he burned the tapes.
Mike March probably gave him one signal too many on those tapes.
Maybe, but like Ty Law jumping around and their offense moving on the Rams, like, you know, it was a fun story in the moment, but then we find out, like, he was caught filming the practice. You're like, what?
I mean,
of course he kind of had an idea of what was going on.
You can blame it on that, but I'll still, I'll remember my dad for the rest of my life with like a minute 37 on the clock when the Rams scored. Kurt Warner, I believe it was to Torrey Holt, touchdown to take the lead. He's like, there's too much damn time. There's too much time on the clock, and then, yeah.
Was it the Holt or was it Bruce? The long...
No, sorry, it was Bruce.
And he caught it, and he kind of cut up, and the DB had like just overran it too much. And
that was a sexy play.
I will tell you right now, I was devastated.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I've hated the Rams my entire life.
Why? What is...
The Niners. Niners, Rams. And most of my youth, the Rams are kind of the jokey team, like, oh, we're going to pummel these guys. Isaac Bruce was always good.
That's true.
And that was kind of it. And then Kurt Warner, grocery bag boy, comes in. It's like, what?
Torrey Holt, Ricky Prohl, Marshall Faulk.
Oh, man, it was I knew I was in trouble when Marshall Faulk went to the Ram. I'm like, oh, no.
Best two-way running back of all time, baby.
Oh.
At least maybe up until 2017 or 18 as we've started to use running backs in a different way. But I believe today's running back is the mold that Marshall Faulk kind of left like to be filled.
Well, I didn't say that in a tone of like change your opinion. I was just thinking about it. So there's only 3 guys all time, I think, at that position that have 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving.
I believe that's correct.
I think it's Christian McCaffrey, Marshall Faulk, and my boy Roger Craig.
I wouldn't be surprised. You're not making me change my position. Just the way that you said it kind of made me think.
No, he was Marshall Faulk was unreal.
But
unbelievable.
We are now in the age of 2023. We're not paying running backs like we used to. So how can you get some of that added value? Well, you can be a two-way Swiss Army knife like Christian McCaffrey if you're considered, you're not Derrick Henry. Well, then you can be the best running back out of the backfield to catch balls as well as running them through the line.
I think you can make a great argument. I don't like to do it often, but you defend the old generation and say, oh, this new generation's not what it was, or vice versa. Marshall Faulk is transcendent through any generation. If he plays in the very beginning, he's the most dominant player of all time. If he played now, he's probably Christian McCaffrey, right? That's probably how we're viewing him lens-wise, is that's a 1,000-yard running back and a 1,000-yard receiver. It's a deadly weapon to have.
God, he was sexy. You're bringing up all kinds of good memories, but bad at the same time, because the greatest show on turf transitioned into the team that started the Patriots dynasty. But I guess
But that was going to happen. I mean, it was just kind of in the stars, right? You ended up winning the Super Bowl. You just won one 2 years ago.
But then
you beat my team to get there. We should have beaten you guys in that game.
They still should have beat the Patriots again, but it was a 13-3 egg. Thanks, Jared Goff.
Wow.
God.
Let's not blame just Jared Goff.
You're right. The play calling in that
McVay wasn't quite ready.
Terrible.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
It kind of felt like McVay got really out-schemed in that one.
Well, it was a good defensive game. 13-3.
It's the worst Super Bowl I've ever watched in my life.
Exactly.
Come on.
Yeah.
I'd rather watch Ravens pummel Giants for 2.5, 3 hours. That game was atrocious.
I would rather watch a replay of "What's up" commercials for a half hour straight than rewatch that Super Bowl 13-3 Patriots win over the Rams.
You know, I said this a couple weeks ago, and Dirt kind of got offended, and I can understand why anybody would get offended by it, but I think I've come to agree with the opinion, even though on the show I apologized for the opinion. I think I've come around to the other side. I think I think anybody can make a very strong argument. It's easy to be, I think being a Mariner fan, okay? Let's say this. Let's use Mariner fan. You're a Mariner fan.
Yeah. Very, very connected to Detroit Lion fan, I feel like, this NFL postseason.
Okay.
Yeah, well, 30 years plus of success in between, no Super Bowl championships. So yeah, we're there together, guys. I love you, Lions fan. That Honolulu Blue, I'm with you with my teal.
Your playoff pedigree is about the same, too. You got like 2 playoff wins in X amount of years or whatever it is.
I hate you, but you're right.
And you may hate the take. I think you can make a very good argument. It actually is worse to be the fan of a really good team than it is the fan of a bad team. Because you can, hold on, bear with me here.
Okay, I'll just, please, continue.
So you're a Mariner fan. You live in kind of this weird hellscape of life, right? You're trapped. You're punching air. You're upset constantly. You're always disappointed. Yeah, I mean, like, of all the teams you choose to root for, they're far and away the worst one. Okay? They might be good this year. I don't know. But you're also used to them losing. So, like, if the Mariners are out of it in August, what do? Who cares? Yeah, it's my life. I'm used to this.
I got Ducks football coming, baby.
It sounds ridiculous because they have the most of them. Do you think Yankee fans happy?
No.
Not at all.
Hell no.
When your team becomes good, I'm kind of living this now. My team's in the Super Bowl against maybe the best quarterback of all time. And I'm like, we got to win a Super Bowl here. The NFC Championship, it's great. I want to be there. You get tired of just getting to that. You want to win the Big Daddy, the old enchilada. The Yankees fans don't care if they go to the ALCS. They've done it a bajillion times. They're never happy. They're not happy unless they're hoisting the flag trophy. And I know it sounds dumb in theory, but at least if you root for a bad team, you're used to being bad. You become numb and don't care. And that's not a good place to be all the time.
I don't know about that.
But Yankee fan is going to an ALCS and they're still living in misery.
I would never want to be a Yankee fan. That is the fan that goes home to their wife after they're watching a game at the stadium, complains after like a 5-3 win over the Red Sox. Giancarlo Stanton still struck out twice.
Right.
I still hate my life. Yeah, God, we need to trade like 3 of us daughters.
Yes.
God.
What a bomb.
I could never live that life. I mean, that's been me all off season as a Mariners fan for the last like 2.5 months, but that's not my life in August. So I digress.
I do feel like that is your life in college football.
Because
there's the feel for me.
Okay.
And,
I root for success. So yeah.
Well, but there's a real feel of like Lanning's, he's in a moment. He's recruiting, he's portaling. Teams and their pieces around him are crumbling as we look all over the place. Like, what's Washington? Well, how long is that going to take? What's Michigan now that Harbaugh's gone and gutted the staff and the roster's empty and the portal's busy? Is Ohio State going to live up to the hype, or is Ryan Day Is he going to choke on that hype and those expectations? I think Dan Lanning's living in a moment.
Yeah.
But if you're being honest, you're also like, hey, guys like Josh Pater saying out loud, Oregon can win the national championship. I don't think just getting to a 12-team playoff is good enough anymore. It's kind of it's a little bit of the vibe. There's certainly the Duck fans that have been Duck fans for a very long time and just go, no, I'm happy with everything. We're relevant and we're always in the conversation. We may not be at the top of that conversation, but you're at least at minimum in it. But there's also the other Duck fans, and I kind of put you more in this camp, and if I'm wrong, I apologize, but it's like, yeah, this has been fun. Can we win one, please? Can we break through with all of this nice stuff that we have?
Yeah, that is more. I'll say that is like 85% my attitude, but I am able to enjoy the amazing games all season that I'm watching. It is just like, damn, this is good football, as opposed to rooting for my Mariners or rooting for the Blazers in a year like this, minus last night, of course, but it's kind of just a slog and you're just hoping for the best at some point. Like, it's like falling into an 8-foot hole and hoping somebody's there to grab you. As a Duck fan, yeah, I'm angsty, but I know that we're successful. I know that our program has finally built up some of that national prestige, you know, moving to the Big Ten. They're being looked at as like, oh, is Oregon going to be the one to smack everybody else coming over and get rid of the Kirk Ferentzes and the Iowas of the world? Like, I am stoked to be on that fan side of the game. Absolutely.
And then if your team loses in the first round of the 12-team playoff next year, you still carrying those same happy sentiments, or are you like,
no? Absolutely not. No, that goes right away. And
you're a Yankee fan, but it's college football. It's okay to say that.
I'm a Yankee fan for part of the year, but I do enjoy see, I'm not that's what I'm saying. I'm like 85-15. I'm a Yankee fan, but I'm not a full-on Yankee fan. I still got some of that passive-aggressive Pacific Northwest sports fan in me, and I can just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, and I think that's very us, our West Coast identity of just like,
oh, it's a game.
Hey, man. Life, you know?
Bro, you want to smoke a joint before we walk in and just enjoy the feel of the game?
The beach waves are nice.
Oh, look at those trees. Are the Beavers winning?
So it sounds dumb in theory, but I do think most successful sports fans, like their teams are successful, I think they live in a special place of misery, especially if they're not winning the championship. And that's all their expectations are.
That's fair.
We have a busy show today, Schultze.
Really busy because A, there's only 2 of us, and B, after yesterday, I don't know how we couldn't have a busy show.
We have a lot to talk about. We have Ken Barkley at 8 a.m. I had another guest, but they had a thing pop up, so we're not going to be able to have them. Maybe tomorrow. I really want to take a hit on something that I talked about yesterday, so I'm looking to book that. But Ken Barkley of You Better You Bet will join us at 8 a.m. It is a loaded show. Let's start. We had a big game in our city. It felt great to say big game night. We haven't had that very often. Let's talk about that next. Dirt and Sprague, good to be with you on this Thursday on The Fan.
We like 3.
Portland.
Good to be in on this Thursday morning. You can reach the show two ways. Well, actually three ways. We're big three-way people on this show.
Hey, no kink shaming here, baby.
None at all. We will get to a football coach that we don't need to kink shame, but we can question. They wrote a book about their sex life. Yes, a current NFL head coach.
Oh, I was going to say former. Is it Rex Ryan?
Nope.
No. Okay.
No,
No
it's a
footsies.
current NFL head coach. I stumbled across some audio yesterday. And yes, it is not timely. It is reaction from the Lions, but it's great audio, and we have to play it. We will dive fully into the Seahawks hiring Mike MacDonald. Did you just say M-A-C? Is it Mick or is it Mac?
I was thinking of that too.
Because I felt like I was watching a lot of stuff on him yesterday, and Mike MacDonald.
It's
but they
MacDonald.
say MacDonald, right?
M-A-C equals Mac, M-C equals Mick, like McDonald.
Okay.
There's a quick McDonald's Mac. And I do believe there is a distinction between the two. But hey, text us 8646-FAN on the Vancouver Ford text line if I am incorrect.
Ken Barkley would join us today, but we'll dive into the Seahawks going from the oldest coach in the NFL to the youngest coach in the National Football League. Defensive mind from Baltimore. I got some NFL odds and ends to get into today. We'll talk a little NBA and also how this is bad luck season, bad luck year for the Portland Trailblazers, who, by the way, maybe, Schultz, we start calling them the Infuego Blazers.
Ooh.
We had a nice little big game yesterday. Swag and I were talking about this game. People were texting in about it. Like, it was one that we all know this team wasn't going to be very good record-wise. But we still circle it because it's Dame. Dame's coming back. Okay, see it on the calendar, find out when it's happening, and then you get to the moment. And it's like all of this hoopla. It's Dame's back. Here he is at Adidas. Dame's back. He's at this. Dame's sleeping at his house now. Casey Aldall has a photography show going on of Dame's life. It was the Dame show for 48 hours, Schultze. And dare I say, it was great. It was great to live in a moment of having something matter in this city sports-wise. It was great living in a, not from a wins-loss perspective, but this is a big game. I talked about yesterday, Dame coming back and how, some of the audio we played is a little misleading and how they got themselves to the post-Dame era. But I wanted them to win that game, and I thought they would go out and do whatever they could to kind of spoil the homecoming for the sweet prince. It was nice, Schultze, to live in a moment of having a big game and it living up to the hype.
It felt like I was a kid watching a Blazers game again. And I say that because Damian Lillard's 11 years here in Portland really gave me the feeling of, obviously only one Western Conference final appearance, but there was definitely some elite moments that we got to watch almost on a nightly basis, I feel like. Like, we knew we were watching greatness, and there were points as a kid, with the Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge combinations, like the could have been things. Like, it just really, seeing the traffic, I was driving in for the hot corner last night and seeing the traffic going to the Blazers game, which I believe is the first time that happened all year. That's kind of what brought me to that kid feeling of watching Blazers basketball again. Like, everything matters. This is awesome. This is what sports is all about. Am I mad that Dame's gone? Yes. Am I pissed at how the organization handled it? Absolutely. That's like three other segments.
Yeah.
But if we're just talking about the moment of Dame returning to Portland, that is what sports are about. I was talking to Kendall last night, my wife, saying, "Oh, babe, you know what? If I weren't working the show tonight, we would have paid whatever we had to pay, even if it were the nosebleeds, just to go and sit and be there," because those are the moments that you have to watch, you have to see, because you look back 10 years later, those are the I remember when moments, and I remember where I was.
I didn't know this at the time, but the Dame game fell on a practice day. I coached my daughter's 6th grade basketball team, and I have an assistant. I have a parent that helps me, and I certainly could have said, "Yo, can you run practice? I'm going to be off." I feel obligated to be there, so I didn't get to go to the game. I was a little behind too on the live. I had to catch up. I caught up about halftime, so I was with everybody in the second half.
Ooh, you stayed up later than normal then.
Usually with Blazer games, I'll stay up for the whole thing before I go to bed. It's a little later for me than I want, but I'll be
Good for you.
Either in bed with the iPad watching the final 5 minutes, or I'll just be downstairs and then just, okay, I'm calling it a night, bye-bye. Because those games usually get over around 9:30 anyway. But catching up, I became incredibly jealous. The intro was awesome. We'll get to all the audio of that. Dame talked before the game. He keeps talking about something, and I, as a Blazer fan, I'm not bothered by it. But if I was a Bucks fan, it would kind of drive me crazy. I don't want to hear it right now, especially in a moment where they're good record-wise, but they're kind of a clunky, weird team, and they fired a coach to hire a coach who I'm not sure knows what he's doing. But I was really jealous of everybody that got to go to those games. They got to go to that game last night. It looked like it was a lot of fun. There was a weird thing I caught up on social media where people were trying to indicate that CJ's return was more emotional or something. And then Gundy saw that, and he was on the show, and he was like, hey, I don't know why people are saying this. I'm in the building. It's a massive deal. It's palpable, the energy in here. And so
Dame almost cried with one of the tribute videos.
He claimed it was sweat. He was caught wiping near his eyes, and everyone's like, Dame's crying. And then he's like, no, I was wiping sweat off my face.
He had a big smile on his face. We don't know.
But he got his flowers. He got the return. He got the great intro, the standing ovation, the video tribute. It just seemed like a really great ticket. They price gouged you compared to the other games, but it really wasn't that atrocious of price. I think I saw some in 300 for like $50, $40.
That's a ticket. That's a ticket. That's a must-have. I feel like $150 just for the game. So then you got another 20, 30 for parking, another 20 for gas, another 100 for food. You can get in and out for under $500. I get it. We're all kind of strapped sometimes financially, but I think that is, if you could, even if you like are living like a little bit on the edge money wise, people were at that game because they needed to be sports wise. It's just like, nope, this is a must have for me. This is a memory that I need to be at.
Well, we all, we talk about the Blazers from time to time. They're bad right now, so we haven't talked about them as much as we probably normally would. But the thing about them, and everybody knows in this city, it's just like it's a little more passionate. It's a little bigger tie, and like we end up arguing with each other on social media about, hey, is this guy as good as this guy on a different team? Is our coach better than that coach? And some people say, hell yeah, almost to all of it, and other people question it, and other people deny it because, again, they live in misery. And that's what's unique, I think, about the sports, the city as a sports city, is the passion, all of it tied to kind of one. And I know the Timbers have certainly and built up their audience as well. But when you just talk Blazers, there's definitely something that's a little different from, I think, most NBA cities. That makes last night, in the midst of being, 14-33 going into the game,
you didn't think about that. You
didn't care about that. It was, I'm going to go watch my team, pay tribute to a guy that, busted his ass and represented the franchise in the city in a pretty positive manner. Let's go have a time. And that's the cool part about Portland is last night, who cares if they won or lost, I guess, but we did kind of want them to beat Dame in his return, but also give Dame the flowers and say, thank you for everything you did.
Kind of making me emotional talking about it, honestly.
Really?
Yeah, you're just bringing me back to yesteryear, to a point where, sports, I guess, seems simpler. As you get older,
sports should be simple. We don't let it be simple. We live in we always want to find a way to be miserable.
Absolutely. But on top of that, there's the business side of things that gets in the way. Obviously that's the reason why Dame is gone.
Sure.
I think some people would argue, but it brings me back to a point of just, wins and losses. And last night's game really, once again, transcends all the business stuff, all the crappy behavior that was going on. I mean, I'm going to get into Jody and Joe giving their standing ovation, and then the answer that Dame gave during the press conference, which we have the audio of him saying he didn't talk to Joe since...
He hasn't talked to him since the trade.
No, there's a lot to be said here on the other side of this. However, when you're just talking about the moment, yeah, I'm getting very emotional just remembering how awesome it was to see Dame's career arc start. I mean, the number 6 pick, people were like, undersized guard, what the hell's that? And he's turned into one of the greatest top 100 players of all time. He's brought people in to watch sports. And I have a special connection to it because my wife, she's with me. She's going to watch sports, but watching Damian Lillard made her love sports. So I get extra emotional about that because he brings people in and he brings people together beyond sports. Obviously, his community help and activities and Damian Lillard Toyota and all that extra stuff. It's obvious what a presence he is.
I hate admitting this out loud, but it's just how I felt. A lot of people were sending out how they felt about Dame and the night and the emotions and whatnot. And you can call me a little cold-hearted here. I didn't find myself feeling all that much when they showed him walking up to the arena and, he comes out in the Bucks uniform. I none of that stuff really hit me in any way. I was just like, meh. But I enjoyed the tribute video. I enjoyed the intro, the standing ovations. I like and appreciate that. I've been in that building, I don't know how many times. I took a tour in that building when it got built because before the Blazers played in it, they had tours. You could go see, hey, check out the Rose Garden.
Oh, like back in 94, 95?
Yeah, and I had a buddy of mine, his dad helped build that.
Oh, that's cool.
The arena. And so we did a tour, and from that point until now, I don't know how many times I've been in the Rose Garden. Still to this day, the most special moment ever for me in that building was watching him wave goodbye to Oklahoma City. I was covering the game. I was at it. I was behind the hoop that he shot at. I was sitting in section 207, and I was sitting next to Joe Fisher. And me and him were there for the fan, and I've never heard it louder. I've never seen... and I didn't see some of the Royce stuff. I was in college, but I was watching in Corvallis. But being in a building wise, that's the biggest moment I've ever seen inside that building in my life. So certainly there's a tie there with what he means and what he meant, and him not talking to the general manager of the Trailblazers post the trade's not shocking to me. I'll say this with a little confidence. I know Joe a little. Super nice guy. And if there's anything we've learned along the way he's been building the team or gutting it and then building it, he does care about how Portland and the franchise are perceived by other players. And so I don't think there's really any bad blood there. I just think it's Dame and the general manager of a different team. Why would they really talk during the year? That doesn't seem like something that happens a whole lot. So, I didn't take that as some grandiose, if this guy's still here, I'm going to hate you. But
it was the way that he answered the question with such, it was like a one word, like, no.
Well, I did, but it's direct. It's honest. But it got ugly at the end, right? It got a little contentious. His agent, hey, only one team. And if you're Joe, Joe misled us a little bit. I think that's okay to say out loud. But if you're Joe and you want to trade, you don't want to trade, but you got to trade this guy, and you're in the midst of getting everything together to do it, knowing you're going to send him to a good spot, probably Miami, but his agent doesn't shut up. What do you do there? He tried to out-leverage Joe.
I appreciate you playing the audio yesterday of when Joe Cronin at last year's trade deadline saying, go listen to this or go listen to the podcast. It's awesome. But it was just bringing me back to last year being such a confident Blazers fan. They're going for it all, baby.
Yep.
And then to find out what happened, it's just that alone makes me upset. So I understand why Dame would be upset as well. I wasn't the player that it was done to. So I can't even imagine really, I'd be angry. I can understand his anger, but I can't imagine that true level of anger. And I feel like that came out in that answer. Just that one word, no.
The Vancouver Ford text line's 503-864-6326. You can reach the show there. YouTube comment section's open as well. YouTube.com/1080 The Fan. You can also reach the show on Twitter. Coming up next, Schultze, I thought of you yesterday with a sports topic.
I appreciate you.
You popped into my brain. I'm like, what strip club's he at right now? Because I want to ask him this question.
Hell yeah.
But you're in here today, so I want to bring that back. We'll get to it next. We'll dive into the full Dame return. We got some NFL to talk about as well. Dirt and Sprague, a lot more to get into. But first, Schultze with a sports update.
Now, Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Portland Trail Blazers spoiled Damian Lillard's homecoming as they topped the Milwaukee Bucks 119-116 the final. Dame finishing with 25, but Ant Simon's the story for Portland. He led the way for the Blazers with 24, including a clutch floater in the final 20 seconds. In a pregame press conference, Lillard did express that he's open to returning to the Blazers to finish his career. In the NFL, more bad news in Baltimore this morning after defensive coordinator Mike McDonald left the franchise to become the next head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. The Tennessee Titans hiring Ravens defensive backs coach Denard Wilson to be their next defensive coordinator under new coach Brian Callahan. And elsewhere, the Green Bay Packers hiring Boston College head coach Jeff Hafley to be their next defensive coordinator. Hafley went 22-26 in 4 seasons with the Eagles. And you got some college hardwood action coming your way tonight. The Ducks on the road down at USC to face the Trojans in LA. Oregon, a 2.5-point favorite. Coverage getting going right here on The Fan following primetime at 7 p.m. You can also watch tip-off at 7:30 on ESPN. And the Pilots hitting the road to face Pacific University. Tip-off set for 7 p.m. over on 910 ESPN. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. The playoffs. Get in the game at Spirit Mountain Casino. Watch and wager on all the pro football playoff action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
This is your home for year-round NFL coverage. The Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Yesterday we had a conversation, and I thought of you, Schultze. You popped into my brain.
Well, I appreciate you. Do I live rent-free in your brain just like a little bit sometimes because of my stupidity here on the air?
No, I just I knew you were going to be here today because Swag was heading down to California. He's in mighty Stockton, California, as the UP men get ready to take on the Pacific
Tigers?
Michael Olowokandis. But I knew he was going to be on URBN. And I'm never surprised, but it kind of felt like yesterday we were talking about the Portland Diamond Project news with the Red Tail Golf Center being purchased or them wanting to purchase it because that's where they want to put the stadium. And, you know, and kind of how it feels like they're putting just all the eggs remaining that they have in that basket. And it kind of, to me, morphed more into traffic debate than it did like actual sports stuff. And I also know there's a decent amount of people out there that when they're listening to the Fan and they hear the Diamond Project, they kind of roll their eyes. I get it. I do. I understand.
It's been a while.
Well, you come out so hot. Hey, we're here to get a team and we've got a billionaire. And now here's all our merch. Here we go. Crickets for 2 years.
I mean, you're not moving at the speed of the Diamond Project. You're moving at the speed of Major League Baseball, which I'm in that frustrated camp too.
I know. But when you come out so white hot and then it goes away, you kind of go, did you miss your moment? And I know they don't feel that way over there, but they released it. And, you know, I had one person tweeted and said, like, I was being a bummer Brandon on it. And I just simply, I think it's ridiculous. You heard me talk yesterday, but when you heard negatively was, I think that's a bad spot, not I don't want baseball. Now, I also said that if they somehow did make it work and the city got their infrastructure act together, I'd love to hear somebody on a Max or something be like, hey, remember when you said this was bad and not possible in this location? And I'd go, yeah. And aren't you excited there's a doubleheader? What do you still care about what I said 10 years ago? So it's like, I don't know, it kind of morphed from baseball, wanting another team, how would another team operate, to traffic. And I certainly understand both sides of it. The sports fans that don't care about the traffic, they just want sports by any means. I also think it's a very valid conversation to have and worth having when people that live in the area are texting into the show, it sucks now, and there's just a golf course there. I think those are conversations worth having because, yes, we want, most of all of us that love or care about sports in any way, want a baseball team. We want another sports entity here.
Yeah.
I just also think it's okay to have a conversation about, is that truly the best spot they could put that in? Or should they, like, would it be better if they were out in Hillsborough and just a bunch of farmland that, you know, they convert into a stadium area? I think you can make that point as well, but I thought of you because I was curious what you thought of the Portland Diamond Project news.
I appreciate you for thinking of me. I am for the fact that they're moving and they are trying to go all in because there is going to be a West Coast team, like either expansion or, you know, if there's trouble in Vegas and Paradise with the A's, you know, who the hell knows? I know Salt Lake is really trying to put, you know, their city in that argument still, like, hey, if you have problems there in Vegas, like, we're here. But Portland has, I feel like with this news, cemented their name in this bag for the next, you know, whenever it does happen. I'm assuming it's going to happen sometime before 2030 that Portland will be in the mix, like not just like a city.
I think they're in the mix now. I just don't think they're at the top of that list anymore.
In the West Coast,
doesn't it
cities,
feel?
I do think that they're on the top of that list.
You think they're ahead of Salt Lake?
Yeah. With this news, this is why I'm saying, like, I do think that, well, because
Salt Lake is ready to host the A's right now. Like, they have a venue for them to play.
But how?
And they have a state, and their land is like, it's not debatable. It's so open space in Salt Lake in spots. And they have identified an area where they're just going to bulldoze and build a stadium out, and they have tons of parking.
Well, how bad do you want another team's retread? You know, like I'm a crappy owner and I'm just not going to spend money on my team, so we've got to move somewhere else and try to foot the bill to another city. Like, how bad do you want that kind of team as opposed to an expansion? And I'm really looking more at the expansion opportunities for West versus East. And you're looking at like Nashville, maybe if there is like a Montreal Expos, like
a Charlotte and Nashville's in the East,
something like that. But in the West, with this news, it does feel like Portland. However, I am on your side of things when it comes to the traffic agreement. Because let me just state, like, I do believe two arguments can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm all for baseball and PDX.
Me too.
I want it to happen
Yep.
with just about any means possible. But just about, I think you start to kind of lose me. I live in Wilsonville. I see the traffic spill out both ways from 217 on a really bad Thursday or Friday. And that kind of traffic with a game 81 nights a year, is it always going to be packed? No. But those Thursdays, those Fridays where you got 7:10 first pitches, where you got other kinds of traffic from work going north and south, and I hate to bring this up, but I read traffic in this city for like 6 years doing another job and another life on another radio station. I know one of the worst bottlenecks in Portland and in this area is Highway 217. It's too small, it's too short, and there's not enough lanes. We, for some reason, don't think of expanding when we build these highways in the 60s.
Well,
and
they're
70s.
currently trying. Swag keeps saying this. He's like, hey, they're almost done and it's going to help. And I went, Swag, I think they've been working on 217 since I was 9.
I think
I'm
you're right.
37 years old. I just feel like I've always seen construction, orange signs that are reflective, big equipment, loose dirt on the side. And it's like, still 2 lanes.
Well,
and
we're in
we're
the
still going to stop and go.
We're in the 2020s, and we just now got retaining walls up over those neighborhoods. So I'm not sure if that area, like the section of,
But it feels like there's no other. It feels like they're putting all of it in that spot. All I was saying is, it's not great. It's not where I would necessarily want to pick it, and I understand that. Maybe there's a lot of things going. I'm sure there are things going against that group that we don't even have knowledge of. But I also think it's okay for people who live in the metro area or that live in that section to go, yeah, it's really bad here. I do want to ask you one thing, and then we'll go. You said you don't want to be the retread for a bad team with a bad owner. I'll give you an example of why you should rethink the position. Salt Lake isn't looking to have the A's. I mean, I think they would take them if they were offered. They're looking to temporarily house them. So you would be basically, in this example, the Oklahoma City venue to the New Orleans Pelicans or Hornets at that time when they got displaced because of the hurricane.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul and company had to go play in Oklahoma City for, I can't remember how many games, but for a minute. And that was I think that was a year before they got the Sonics, like Clay Bennett.
It was about half a season.
So to me, it's not about like, oh, we want the A's. I think if you were Salt Lake or Portland, if we had it, I think it'd be more about, oh, we'll take it because we'll show you we care. We will fill the venue out, and then you can take this team and piss off. But you'll remember this when you're looking at expansion and say, that city did well. That's why the NBA was okay going to Oklahoma City. They were also upset by Key Arena and members of the Washington political system of that. But that's why you do take the A's in. It's not about the A's. It's about showing we are a major league city. We'll show you. Who cares if the A's are bad? We want baseball. So that's our position. I would take the A's right now if you could get them.
I mean, you're right, but that's the thing is that's a big what if. You can't. The Port and I mean they.
Oh no, we currently cannot. No,
the city of Portland pivoted away from baseball long ago when when the Portland Beavers left town. That essentially left no legitimate baseball venue, with 15,000+ seats for any team of a minor league to consider until the Hops came to town. I mean, they are obviously the best baseball show that we have around. They're the nicest. They've got the coolest stadium, and they even are. They're grabbing money for a bigger stadium because they got to get up to MLB standards. So unfortunately, it's just, I hear you, but it's not in the cards. So it's kind of like, all right, you know what? Take him, Salt Lake. Take the A's, the Vegas A's, and
I would worry if Salt Lake got him.
You would worry.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think Salt Lake's ahead of us.
But that's going to be, if Salt Lake gets them, then that means that they're probably going to stay there. Because as you said...
I just think Salt Lake and Vegas are more in on pro sports than our metro city leaders are here.
But if Salt Lake gets the A's and Vegas doesn't...
No. I think they're looking to temporarily... Because they got to build a stadium if they're truly going to go to Vegas, so they'd have to play somewhere.
Yeah, but that's
I think Salt Lake would want to fill that void for a year or two.
It's going way it's going way further than they thought that this was going to go in negotiations with the Vegas A's.
Oh, it's not going well for the A's in Vegas right now. No,
there's a possibility that the A's. I mean, this is a long shot, but agreements could be broken. They could end up in Salt Lake City permanently just because there's so many other things going on in Vegas. I mean, those city leaders are up to their ears dealing with they're doing more F1 racings, like not the massive event, but they're bringing in more events. Like there's all kinds of stuff with the Sphere. There's massive losses on that. The city does have a part in all of these negotiations, so they're already busy. I don't know how they can handle a baseball team on top of this.
Coming up next, is this a worrisome trend or just a one-off? Next on The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
I want to defend Dan. last night. We got audio for all of it. They won the game as well, the Portland Trail Blazers and Fuego Blazers, huh?
119 to 116. Ant Simon's the star. And kind of Scoot, too. He had a good first half.
No, Scoot was fine. He didn't. He had a small shot in the second half and basically didn't play after that second half stint. Ant was okay. He was good at the end for sure.
Oh, yeah, he came on in the second half. First half, you're like, dude, this is the Dame v. Ant game. Come on.
He had my 12-year-old daughter, who I was not ready for. She came out and saw the game on the television and was like, boo, when Dame had the ball. I'm like, you're booing Dame? And she went, yeah, he betrayed us. I'm like, well, that's not really how that happened. And thanks for listening to the show, honey. And she was like, well, what happened? And I told her. But even at the end of the game, like, she was losing her mind. Like, she got really intense and she was screaming at Ant, shoot it! And he's like dribbling the clock. And I'm like, well, he's trying to kill clock. And I'm trying to explain the nuances of what's happening. And she hits the shot. And
I love it. I can only hope that my future kids are as intense of a sports fan as your daughter.
You're going to have a kid?
Future,
you want kids?
Yes. My wife and I would
Really?
love to have kids. Yeah. We're getting to that point where it's time. Like, we would like to, start. We got 2 cats. We want to expand the family and make a little imprint on this world.
Pussy man. Dirt took a picture of his kid watching us on YouTube yesterday and tweeted it out. And I was like, well, there goes the screen time. That kid's now
a little smudge. He's already addicted, baby.
He is addicted to the hot take culture. And he basically said, we need more duck talk. Okay. All right.
I bet he was thinking that.
Yeah, because I just sit down and I plot, how can I not talk Oregon Ducks?
I mean, this was a 3-hour Beaver show yesterday. I'm a P1 of Dirt and Sprague.
Was it a 3-hour Beaver show?
I'm lying.
Oh, okay.
I'm totally kidding. You guys actually, the Blazers convo was really good. And like I said earlier, I appreciate how you played that Joe Cronin audio from the last trade deadline, talking about how Blazers fans would be embarrassed, almost upset at how bad it looked like they were going to lose a deal because they were going so all in to help Damian Lillard.
Jeff Hafley, not a name I think everybody's familiar with. I certainly wasn't.
I had to go look up how to say his name for the updates.
Am I saying it right, Hafley?
Hafley is correct.
Okay, Jeff Hafley was the head coach of Boston College, an ACC juggernaut. Well, when Doug Flutie played. But
Boston College? The Eagles?
The head coach of Boston College decided to stop being the head coach of a Power 4 conference team, even though we know where they kind of stack in that conference, to be a defensive coordinator for the Packers. And I don't think this is a trend, but I think it's something interesting to keep watching. I've said this before. I don't know how people coach college football anymore. Position coaches, okay. Head coaching, it seems like a nightmare. The portal, recruiting year-round, there's 2 signing days. You know, what do you get? You probably get 3 weeks in July. Other than that, it's like constant booster and dealing with portal business and what kids are interested and what kids aren't interested. And again, I don't think it's a trend, but it's something to kind of keep an eye on, that a head coach of a team decided to leave to be a D coordinator. Now, he has ties to the NFL. I know that. But it's still an interesting move. Like, I'm out of the racket. I'm done. I don't want to do this. I'm just going to coach one side of the football and go to the National Football League. Something to keep an eye on, because until I think we get some kind of player association, union type deal, CBAs, whatever, I think you might see this a little more because of how impossible it can feel to coach major college football nowadays.
I'm not surprised whenever I see one of these news articles now. I mean, everyone's like, oh, what a head coach giving up the opportunity. What he's giving up is a lot of stress. He's giving up a lot of extra hours at the office. And maybe Hafley believes that in this current world of NIL, we're starting to see, I feel like, even younger guys like Chris Peterson. He hightailed it out of there from Washington because, even before 2020, he saw the writing on the wall of the future of college football being run by the almighty dollar, but now in the public sector. We see it happening. Kids are coming to Nick Saban before he retires.
Look at the Tennessee story, right? They get busted with NIL, and it's like, holy crap, look how much money they paid. $14 million?
That is a lot of cash. And behind the scenes, that's a lot of stress as well for these coaches trying to retain these kids. So it's not surprising to me to see maybe, some of these even younger guys with like the old school football mentality of like, oh, these kids just need to play, or I just don't want to deal with the recruiting side. They're just moving on and taking a job where they don't have to.
So the Packers find their new D coordinator, former head coach of Boston College, Jeff Hafley, is decided to jump into the National Football League. I have no idea if this is a good hire. I was going to bring this up in my NFL odds and ends of like, how can you gauge some of this stuff as a fan? And we'll talk about another hire that was happening. We'll get in some NFL stuff. We have a loaded second hour. We're going to kick it off. Damian Lillard makes his return to Portland last night. Dame Time was back in Portland as a Milwaukee Buck. Hour 2, Dirt and Sprague on the Odyssey app and the Fan.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to hims.com/radio. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the name brands to treat ED at up to 95% off. That's right, the same active ingredient as the brand name for 95% less. It's the same ED medication, still prescribed by a licensed medical provider, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
Hey everybody, Sprague here. You've heard me promote the quality service and dedication that Three Mountains Plumbing provides its customers. 646-6326. They treat you right before, during, and after the sale. Visit them for more information at VancouverFord.com. I have to step away from the microphone for here just a quick second. We have these, if you're on YouTube, you can see these. We have all these papers on our desk we're supposed to read off of. And we got like 80 hosts who just have different philosophies of what to do. Some just like throwing them all over. Some like to stack them and then hide them under crap. Some like to put them on the opposite side of the desk. I don't know what happens in here, but I come in every morning and it's just something different. And then when I need to read them, I haven't organized it, so I'm an idiot. So let me grab this sheet. There we go.
You look great on the YouTube stream.
Thank you. Thank you. Woke up early, did some cleaning, put some lotion on my face. I feel good. We want to remind you that if you're interested in playing indoor golf, you can at 1080thefan.com because we're starting, Schultze, our Winter Golf Classic at X Golf Tualatin and Vancouver. It's on Tuesday, February 27th. It's a threesome, not a foursome, a threesome. 4 is too many. 3 is the just right number. Ask anybody out there that have a pineapple or one garden gnome. They'll tell you 3 is perfect. You can choose from either the noon round or the 4 p.m. round at either location. Danny and Dusty will be at X Golf Vancouver. Isaac and Suk will be at X Golf Tualatin. The winning threesome will be invited for a foursome at our Summer Fan Golf Classic. And the last place team will get free lessons at X Golf. Damian Lillard made his return, Schultze. He is back. And he is a Milwaukee Buck. And interesting, he talked yesterday. We got some clips here to get to because it was emotional. I don't know how this is going to sound. It didn't sound good on my laptop. I'm hoping it sounds a little better, more audible-wise here on the radio. Mark Mason, the longtime voice, in-arena voice of the Portland Trailblazers, just one of the best to do it. He recorded himself doing Dame's intro. We'll see how this sounds right now. This was Mark Mason saying hello to Damian Lillard in the starting lineup as a Milwaukee Buck.
God 6'3" for Weaver State.
So he gave him the traditional starting lineup, which I think you have to, right?
That gave me goosebumps, man. That just did.
Yeah. Mason's good at that, man. He's great at that.
Mark Mason is a gem, and he's one of those guys that we just got to replace, like with AI. Like there's few people in this business, especially like stadium voices, like Don Essig for the Ducks. You know, like it never rains in Autzen Stadium. Mark Mason is one of those guys. We don't need a replacement when they pass on. Just please give us your voice for AI. We'll pay your family and estate royalties for the rest of time because that voice is synonymous with Blazers basketball.
Dame talked. They set up a media press conference for him before the game because obviously this is a bigger deal than just any player coming back to his former team. And so he got to sit down in the media, the local media, got to talk to him and ask him a bunch of questions. Let's start his relationship with Rip City. This is what Damian Lillard had to say.
My relationship to the city and the fans here, the organization, I think it's never ending. You know, I don't look at it as closure or anything like that. I just know that it's something that, you know, it doesn't happen often, you know, to come into a city as a draft pick, to be able to have so many accomplishments, to have a good relationship with the fans, a good relationship with the organization, to experience a lot of success. You know, a lot of the things that I experienced here, I know that is going to always be a part of me. You know, it's going to be a huge part of my legacy and what I've been able to accomplish as a man, as an athlete. So that's not something that I'm ever going to say, oh, I'm going to have closure on it. You know, it'll always be a part of me because everything that I've said, you know, how I felt about my time, I'm in it. So it's not, you know, it's no reason to say, oh, this is closure and putting it behind me or anything like that. You know, it's a huge part of my journey and it's an important part of my journey. So I'll always appreciate that and I'll always, you know, hold that close to me. And I don't think anything other than that is necessary.
I was wondering with Swag yesterday, Schultze, I was like, you know, going to your traditional locker room, the walk, the photos, where your locker is, like you just become accustomed to it. I was wondering if he was going to, like, what it was going to be like for him to go to the visitor locker room. If you haven't been in either, Massive difference. I mean, if you've stood in the visiting locker room at the Moda Center, when those guys are in there getting dressed and getting ready, even as like a normal sized person, you just feel cramped. There's not a lot of elbow room.
I don't know if they've updated the visitor locker room.
No, they
in a
have
while.
not.
So it still looks worse than my high school football locker room.
Okay.
It's pretty tiny.
Yeah, size wise for sure. My locker room in high school was bigger than the visitor locker room.
I was watching like 6'6" James Harden and like 7 foot whatever Yao Ming on benches that looked like they belonged at a high school, like back in yesteryear, from what I remember anyway.
I was at D Wade's last game in Portland. I like to go to the last games of guys. I went to Kobe's,
Nice.
RIP. And Dwayne was sitting down when the horde was around him. And I'll never forget Udonis Haslem telling somebody to back up because they almost hit his D. Because I'm telling you, the lockers are
prank
like
watching going on in here.
But he was like, "Hey man, back up!" Almost hit my, and I was like, "Oh, okay, we got some foreplay going on."
Hey, appreciate the warning.
But here was Dame before the game started, just explaining. I'm not familiar with being a visitor in this arena.
It was weird. I walked in, and as I was coming in, I was. Having the cameras out.
What is that? Is that us? Is it playing?
Hey, so
what is happening?
Is the system freezing on me? I don't know.
It looks like it's playing.
Going.
Yeah, okay. Oh, this is good timing.
Great timing.
What do we need audio
in
for?
the arena.
It's just a radio show. It's not just an audio medium, We're on YouTube.
It wasn't too crazy.
Okay. Is this okay? Do you think this is going to happen with the next clip? Let's try it. Here is Damian Lillard. He said this. I think this is cool to hear for us. If you were to put yourself in a Milwaukee Buck fan spot, yeah, just like, brother, we get it. You love Portland. You live in Portland. You wouldn't have chose Milwaukee. Can we not talk about what you'd like to do in your playing career while you're still actively playing as a Milwaukee Buck? Here's what Dame had to say.
I think because of how I feel about Portland, how I feel about the organization here, my time that I spent here, in my mind, I've always felt like that's how my career would end. And right now, I'm just in a space of like, this is where I am now. I'm in Milwaukee. I wanted the opportunity to contend, and our team has the opportunity to contend for this year and years to come. And I'm just living in that, But I definitely, like I said when I was traded, I see a day where, I'll be in a Trailblazer uniform again, before I'm done. But like I said, I'm in this time. And to accomplish what we want to accomplish, you got to be fully invested in that. And, I can't let this time just kind of slip away worrying about, looking too far into the future.
So he said this before. He said it again yesterday. He sees a time in his life when he's playing that he's going to be donning the Trailblazer uniform again as a player. I'm trying to think of like old players on teams because he's certainly not coming back as a starter.
No, I mean, Dwayne Wade.
I don't even know if he's your backup point guard. Like when I'm thinking about him back in Portland, I'm thinking of like third string, doesn't play 50 games, but he plays and he's there, but he's kind of a mentor.
Like, what did KG do when he spent the last couple of years with the T-Wolves? Kind of similar, right? Dwayne Wade went too early after his year in Chicago, or half a year in Chicago, back to Miami. So he was still a starter, I believe.
Yeah.
Had some time left in his career. But like a KG T-Wolves comparison, I think is pretty accurate.
I want to dive into the game. Schulte, you thought, I did hear and see this, that he was asked if he had talked to Joe Cronin post the trade, and this is the response.
Dame, have you and Joe talked since all that stuff went down in the summer? Like since the trade, since any of that?
No.
That's a 4-second cut. I didn't know 3 of the 4 was going to be Sean Highkin asking the question because Dame's no was about a second long.
That's kind of what I was trying to point out in the last hour, saying, that was a pretty forceful. Not only was it a quick answer, but you notice about the city, about former players, that CJ, he really goes into the love relationship that he has with everybody. But Joe Cronin, it's just like a quick, straight up.
Yeah.
I think why, and I do think it's beyond what happened happened. And frankly, I think most of that lies into the fact, and I predicted this, go check the freaking audio back last summer. I said, you know what? There's still hope that Dame remains a Blazer because this could all fall apart. We don't know if the market's going to work out the way that the Blazers or that Dame and his agent want it to. Kobe, he asked for a trade back in the day and ended up becoming a Laker again, going back to LA and saying, you know what, never mind, I rescind that trade.
Oh, that's what you mean.
And I pointed out at the time, you know what, maybe this could happen in Portland, but my faith is pretty thin because the Lakers are a much better run organization than the Portland Trail Blazers are. And I know that's a shot, and I know people don't like hearing that, but guess what freaking happened? Dame came back to Joe and said, guess what? It doesn't look like this is going to be. I just want to be a Blazer again. I'm open to coming back and let's just do this. And him and Jody said no. So yeah, I think that no encompasses all of that frustration in that final, as he said, he hasn't talked to him since, that final interaction with him before he left the franchise.
Let's talk about the game. Blazers get the win in Fuego Blazers. In Blazers in Fuego, yes or no? At Dirt and Sprague is the poll question I'll post right there. I want to react to something you just said there. We'll talk about the game. Ant gets the go-ahead bucket. Blazers get the dub. Dirt and Sprague, we talk about it next on The Fan.
Play golf where it's always warm.
Oh, golly, I'm hot today.
1080 The Fan invites you to play in the first annual Fan Winter Golf Classic at X Golf Tualatin and X Golf Vancouver, Tuesday, February 27th. We have an early round and a late round at both locations. Danny and Dusty and Isaac and Souk will broadcast live. Fabulous prizes are on the line, including lessons for the worst team. Sign your threesome up now at 1080thefan.com.
Now, here's a quick look at Portland traffic.
Southbound 5, we're looking at slow traffic before SR 500 now across the Interstate Bridge. Sunset Highway starting to slow down as you head around the zoo over towards 405. That's traffic. I'm David Bruce.
The Winterhawks host their annual Hawks Fight Cancer Night this Sunday. Secure official Hawks Fight Cancer merchandise from the team store and help raise funds for local cancer-fighting organizations. Stand up against cancer and get your tickets today at winterhawks.com.
My 13-year-old acts like a puppy again. Almost overnight, she's a different dog.
Perfect poops. When people switch their dog's food to the farmer's dog, the effects can seem like magic. But there's no magic involved. It's simply real meat and vegetables with all the nutrients dogs need, instead of highly processed pellets. No tricks, just smarter, healthier pet food delivered in packs portioned for your dog. It's amazing what real food can do. Get 50% off your first order at thefarmersdog.com/no magic.
Don't settle for bad car audio. Get the drive you deserve with a factory sound upgrade from Car Toys. Our expert installers can work with virtually any vehicle, old, new, or even EVs, whether you want a receiver replacement or not. From a simple speaker swap to a full audio overhaul, we'll help you get amazing sound within your budget. Right now, select speakers start at just $39. Visit your local Car Toys today for a free consultation with an expert.
Car Toys, a better way to go.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
you on this Thursday morning. The only thing I'd say to you, Schultze, on what you're talking about, I think when they got to the point where Dame was kicking around the idea of coming back, like I think it had gone too far. The Kobe Laker examples, it's an okay one to use, but it didn't get quite as deep as the Dame Blazer saga had got. And so when Miami seemed like they were not going to be a possibility, I think he looked at the landscape and said, well, where else would I want to go? Nowhere. And I think at that point they had Scoot, like we had Ant. It just roster-wise, it didn't make sense. They'd put themselves in that position, sure. But I think he said no because like it just doesn't make sense. It's not fair to anybody. And so I know not everybody liked that, and you hold it against them. But personally, I kind of felt like at that point it had gone too far to be able to say, yeah, just why don't you just rescind the trade request, all the noise, all the hoopla, and just fit right in with our 5-guard lineup. Why don't you just go and do that?
I mean, contract was signed. He had planned on playing with the Blazers for the next 4 years, making a bungload of money. Yep. So I hear what you're saying, but ultimately, this is, once again, one of the top 100 players of all time that we're talking about.
Top 75, actually.
Thank you. Top 75. These are the guys you make exceptions for. These are not the normal players that just like, oh, you move on. And maybe I'm a little biased because I heard my dad bitching a lot about the Clyde Drexler thing and the way that was handled by the Blazers. And, he said a couple of different times, even despite not liking Portland, he wanted to try to finish his career here. He was in on the Blazers and ending it here if they were going to handle him right. But it was obvious they were just doing a rebuild, firing Adelman, moving on to Carlissimo. I mean, same kind of deal. You look and then essentially in the early 2000s, same kind of deal, blowing things up, drafting Sebastian Telfair. I mean, time after time after time, the Blazers have done this, moved on from a star, in my opinion, too quickly, or moved on from a team too quickly, so that could have gotten all the way. So I just feel like this was the wrong move, especially because this is probably the best player you're ever going to have in your franchise, ever.
Well, the Blazers are in fuego right now. They actually got the win in Dame's return. Quite emotional. A great basketball game, really. It
was fun.
Yeah, it was back and forth in nature, and nobody really blowing the other one out and like, oh, man, Milwaukee's got the lead now. Oh, here comes Portland. Portland's got the lead now. Here comes Milwaukee. It goes all the way down to the wire, and Ant Simons hits the go-ahead bucket. It's an ugly-looking shot, that Euro step jumping off the wrong foot shot floater that he has, but he's done it twice to win games. So it works. Who cares if it's ugly? It looks weird, but it works. It's what he practices. Dame didn't have his greatest game. Many are saying, not having his greatest season. Milwaukee fan that's, over anxious and living and dying by every moment of an 82-game season's freaking out right now. Doc Rivers isn't inspiring a whole lot of confidence. It kind of looked the same as when Adrian Griffin was coaching the team. I don't know what that was at the end of the game. Why is Damian Lillard inbounding the ball when you're down 3 with 5 seconds left? That was odd to me. But Portland gets the win. They're not like on this real long winning streak by any stretch, Schultze, but playing better basketball. They beat the Sixers, a very shorthanded Sixers team. Milwaukee's a great win for them. They've blown that Milwaukee game at Milwaukee. But you lost Chicago, San Antonio. So, you're 3-4 in your last 7. But as Gundy noted, it is looking a little better. DeAndre Ayton has certainly put together a nice little 5-game stretch here. The Ant stuff's interesting. I know he had the go-ahead. He had 24. He's just kind of been up and down. His January was not a good January, and I know he did get sick in January, so give him that at least, and we'll see what February is going to bring. But he at least ends on a high of the team winning. It doesn't feel like we're going to trade Malcolm or Jeremy Grant. Scoot had 15 points, like really quick in his first stint in that game last night. Not so much in the second half. A nice overall win. Our Blazers, Schultze, in fuego? in Fuego?
I would say that
3 and 4 in Fuego?
They are definitely in danger of hitting the over on their win total for the season.
Oh, you think that's in play?
I mean, what?
They
15
and 33.
Yeah,
the over-under's 28, I believe.
Yeah, 28, 27 and a half ish. So they've got nothing else to play for other than night to night, trying to be the best team that they can and basically go out and just play the hell out of that one game and then go on to the next. I mean, what else are you doing as a professional player? You're cashing that check. You know that you're not making the playoffs, so you're showing up giving, I guess, last night was their Super Bowl, right? For the Portland Trailblazers.
Absolutely,
this was their playoff game for this year.
Yes, it was.
So this is probably the most effort that you're going to see from them all year, but you would think going into the end of the season, of course, being a spoiler starts to kind of creep in these guys' heads. There's reasons that they'll get up. So yeah, I do think that 28 win total is in danger of hitting the over for everybody that thought the Blazers were just going to be absolute ass all season.
Can we talk about very quickly, because I want to go to something that's looming for Portland, and I think it was brought up on yesterday's show. Can we talk about Brook Lopez real quick and the fact that he hates Damian Lillard?
Yeah,
Has anybody else pick? Are you a league pass guy, Schultz? Are you a big NBA guy? Is it like your not number one, but are you watching a lot of NBA? Are you a league pass guy? It's okay if you're not.
I watch the big games. Like,
you watch the TNTs, the ESPNs.
Absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
So this has kind of been looming in the background of the Bucks season for those non-league pass subscribers. Brook's got interesting body language with Dame. It seems like they would get along. Like, Dame's a pretty consummate pro, and Rolo played here, and he's on that team too. So you think like, hey, brother, I played with this man. You should trust him. Brook doesn't indicate body language-wise like a guy that wants Dame to have Dame time. I can't think of a bigger example than the end of that game. Dame dribbles, the double's thrown, he kicks it to Brook. Brook up fakes, gets Tumani to jump past him, and then that leads Malcolm to start leaking over to help because Tumani's behind Brook. Dame has space, and you need a three, and Brook shoots the shot. Like, how unaware of your situation do you have to be in Portland for Dame's return, have Damian Lillard open for a three, and be like, no, it's Brook time.
I love the picture on Twitter of Dame he's waiting for the ball.
He's literally like, yo, Malcolm would have put a hand up, but he wasn't getting there. Dame would have had a clean look for Dame.
Absolutely.
And Brook was just like, nope. It's me.
Does he hate Damian Lillard, or is it more because I noticed this when Adrian Griffin was their head coach? Brook Lopez just looked out of place. He looked uncomfortable. I mean, it was like always defensively. There was some kind of feeling from Brook Lopez where he was out of sorts because you could see him complaining to either players on the court or to Adrian Griffin about the spacing, about where he was telling him to go.
He hated Adrian Griffin.
So I feel like that whole vibe this year for the Bucks has just kind of been there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he hates Dame. I think he just doesn't know where to be in this offense, but maybe I'm missing some of this league pass stuff that you're talking about.
It's not just league pass. The offense is weird. It's clunky. A team with Dame and Giannis on it should not be losing to a team with the Blazers.
Well, Brook Lopez doesn't know how to run the pick and roll either. I mean, Dame trying to get used to, maybe that's why Brook doesn't like Dame, because trying to get used to running the pick and roll with Damian Lillard.
I'll tell you why Brook doesn't like Dame.
Hell for Brook.
I'll tell you why he doesn't like Dame. One, the Sacramento game, he hit the game winner. Brook Lopez was like the only guy to not celebrate that with Dame. Everybody else jumped at him.
Oh, okay.
This is why Brook Lopez hates Damian Lillard. Defense. Do you know how many times in a game Brook Lopez is probably like, oh, no, I got to help on his guy again.
I got to save his ass.
Oh, no, I'm a big guy. I can't guard two people. Dame, get over here. I don't know why I'm making that his voice. I'm trying to go as low as I can because he kind of has that low 7-1 voice.
I think him and Rolo kind of sound very similar to what
Rolo, nice little moment with the broom, getting that ball. But I really think Brook Lopez doesn't like him. And the fact that he passed him up on that three with his return in Portland, knowing we were all waiting for our hearts to be broken by this man, I think that shows it. And I think it's because of defense. Dame's not good on defense, not even a little bit. And I think Brook's been like, oh, I'm helping so much. I can't keep helping. And he's like, screw this guy. I don't know what am I doing with that voice? It doesn't sound anything like him.
It's a tough, I don't know. They're way taller than you or I.
But I kind of like talking like this. Like, imagine an NBA player. Hey, you're not playing good defense. You need to help me out.
I just don't think you've got there's no way that you can replicate that. You don't have the pipes, bro. They're just not big enough.
I can go deep. I can go real deep.
Yeah, all right. Engineer Joey in here says that was a shot at you, but I stand by my words.
Wow.
Stand by it.
You know, you get out of here, Joey in IT. Why don't you go back to your IT cubicle? We have a little more on this, something that many people haven't thought about that I want to bring your attention to. I'll get into some football stuff as well. Ken Barkley at 8. Seahawks have a new coach. Dirt and Sprague back with more on The Fan.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, the Portland Trailblazers spoiling Damian Lillard's homecoming. They topped the Milwaukee Bucks 119-116. The final Dame finishing up with 25, but Ant Simons, he led the way for Portland with 24, including that clutch floater in the final 20 seconds to seal it. In a pregame press conference, Lillard did express that he's open to returning to the Blazers to finish his career. Moving on to football, bad news in Baltimore this morning again. After defensive coordinator Mike McDonald left the franchise to become the next head coach of the Seahawks, the Tennessee Titans are hiring Ravens D-backs coach Denard Wilson to be their next defensive coordinator under new coach Brian Callahan. Elsewhere, the Green Bay Packers have hired Boston College head coach Jeff Hafley to be their next defensive coordinator. He went 22-26 in 4 seasons with the Eagles. And on the college hardwood tonight, the Oregon Ducks facing off against the Trojans down in Los Angeles, Oregon, a 2.5-point favorite in that one. Coverage getting going right here on The Fan following prime time at 7 p.m. You can also watch tip-off at 7:30 on ESPN. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Get in the game at Spirit Mountain Casino. Watch and wager on all the pro football playoff action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Go deeper on the Trailblazers. The Rose Garden Report with host Sean Hyken. Download the Rose Garden Report on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know what? Let's throw a party this year for the big game.
Hey, we can invite our friends over and all take turns yelling at the TV during the game.
But first, we should get a new TV.
Yeah, like one of the top-rated brands, Samsung, LG, or Sony.
Okay, so I'll start shopping on the internet, then head over to the Warehouse Club to compare.
But if that's all we do, we'll be sorry.
Why?
Because the best deals on those top-rated TVs are at video only, not online or at the club.
Video only has better deals?
Yep, we could save up to $500 if we shop smart.
No dirt, just Sprague. Schultz in for Swigard today and tomorrow. Swag's out the rest of the week. The big super game is next week, Schultz. You can't say the real name of the game.
It's the big game.
It's the big
matchup.
game, yeah.
They remember when the NFL,
super matchup.
The NFL tried to also copyright the phrase "the big game."
Did they really?
They really did. This is maybe close to a decade ago, but yeah, I'm just like, so what phrase are we going to use? Do you not want anybody advertising your event other than you? That is just so high and mighty.
Andrew tweets and says, Brooke Lopez sounds like the Jolly Green Giant doing an impression of Tom Hardy's Bane.
That's it. I love that.
I'm just Brooke. It's Brooke time, bitch. What do you want from me?
I mean, that's a little more Groot, but I think I'm down.
Was that more Groot?
I am Groot.
I am Brooke. He kind of looks like Groot. I don't know.
He does. Rolo and him. It could be Groot twins.
Got NFL odds and ends to get into coming up at 7:45. Ken Barkley's going to be at 8. And then 8:15, the Seahawks got their guy. They've got their man. Mike McDonald, 36-year-old coach out of Baltimore, 2-year D coordinator, and defense was absolutely lights out and stout. And when you shut down a Shanahan offense one time in a season, buddy, you got to be the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. That was my takeaway. One of my big takeaways from that hire was the noise around it. We'll talk about that coming up at 8:15. So yesterday we had Gundy on, and he brought up an interesting point. I thought, okay, I'll talk about this tomorrow. Portland wins. They're 15-33. They've been playing better, more watchable basketball as of late, so I think most of us that watch their games appreciate it. You know, here's the down part. Right now, and I think Tom Haberstroh said this on the broadcast, the Blazers' projection right now says Golden State is going to be the 10th pick in the draft by the odds.
Okay.
Portland gets that pick.
Yes, they do.
Portland also has their own pick this year. And what's fascinating to me is many think this is the right thing. Like, hey, get past Dame, blow it up, do the full rebuild thing. I think in most years that's spot on. And it doesn't mean that this year means it's not. But what I've noticed is this year's draft is poo-poo. It is a poo-poo platter where the number one pick might be a player nobody's talking about right now. There's a kid, what's the kid in Colorado? Cody Williams out of Colorado's made some noise. Kid in Kentucky's made some noise. Olivier Sarr. Like, you know, you got the Brazilian kid, and you got some G League, Ron Hollins of the world. It's not a very highly thought of draft, Schultze. And it just so happens to be year one of our rebuild where draft capital in most instances matters and can help you. And I'm not saying Portland can't go find a gem. I've been on the record. I think the game's too international for a draft to be truly bad. It can be bad at the top, but I'm never surprised if there's a second round guy, late first round guy that didn't get quite the hype and ends up, you know, blossoming into something. It just sucks that the first year they're doing this ends up being probably the second worst draft in 24 years.
Well, you know, we always hear the argument that the Blazers know how to acquire assets. They know how to stock up on future assets to, you know, keep the future bright. And unfortunately, in years like this, it kind of falls upon deaf ears because, well, who are you going to go get?
Well, I think the other part of this is, and it's the conversation part, is many of us, I'll put myself, you know, raising my hand, I thought this was an easy trade Malcolm Brogdon, maybe move Jeremy Grant if you get a nice deal. And all the intel is that they're not looking to do that. Now, a sweetheart deal comes, I'm sure Joe Cronin will take it, probably eyeing a young prospect more so than draft capital. But that's what kind of hamstrings you a little bit. Not that they need to be in a rush to trade Malcolm Brogdon. He, by all accounts, seems like he's working really well in the locker room. The young guys look up to him. He's got a great working relationship with Chauncey. Like, he likes it here. He's not in a hurry to leave. Also, moving sucks, even for guys that aren't actually packing the boxes, and it still sucks. It's a process. We might have Malcolm Brogdon on this team the full year. He could be on a Blazers in the summer. We could have Malcolm Brogdon going into next year and saying, okay, now he's an expiring and it's the Cooper Flag draft. This draft is supposed to be infinitely better than 2024, and so it kind of in a weird way, it doesn't have to stop how you operate in the rebuild, but it does change the way you think about that process. At least that's what it feels like to me, reading what we know or hearing what we know about the way they're viewing their veteran guys that we know long-term are not for long here. Malcolm maybe not in a rush to be traded because what are you going to give us? A pick this year? This draft sucks.
It's always based on the market, right? You're dealing with what you can get back at that particular time. You're always hoping you can get the best deal, but that changes from year to year. Case in point, if draft assets aren't as valuable because nobody's coming out that anybody wants, well, what the hell are you going to go do? And at that point, if nobody's talking to you for draft assets, I also look at the Blazers looking at guards and smaller forwards, putting them at the 4 as maybe a problem for trying to deal with other teams, because not every other team out there, even if they're looking for like an extra piece, likes to have 4 guards on the roster. So I feel like Malcolm Brogdon immediately becomes more valuable in Portland than he does to other teams. Jeremy Grant in the same regard, because he's that smaller forward, but Portland loves those guys. He becomes more valuable to Portland in that regard. But also, if you look at the current landscape of the NBA coming up with the trade deadline here soon, who really needs, a true 20-plus point a game point guard right now and a starting small forward in the NBA? Not many teams. We're looking at maybe some pieces that
Milwaukee could use a Matisse.
They could use a Matisse, but
yeah.
They don't need a Malcolm Brogdon or a Jeremy Grant. And I don't think, if you're the Blazers and you're not selling any of these assets because you're not getting that young Scotty Barnes piece back or 3 first-round picks that you're not sure going to be valuable, then yeah, Matisse might be an option that you could trade, but there's just no way, as we heard at the beginning of the season, you know what? Jeremy and Malcolm are gone. There's no way that you can trade them and expect max value back. You do understand what Joe Cronin is doing here. He's trying to set the franchise up to just not get bilked. And right now, the market just isn't there for either guy.
Yeah, you look at the West, there's teams like Dallas, Sacramento. The Lakers are kind of desperate in this category. Golden State, I'm not really sure. Steve Kerr came out yesterday and said, we're not going to find guys more talented than Gary Payton II and Chris Paul.
Do the Lakers have enough money to replace Jeremy Grant, or to replace Rui Hachimura with Jeremy Grant? They don't.
No, but they also don't have the assets for it. Rui Hachimura wouldn't make a lot of sense for this team, nor is that the most amazing player, and they don't have a lot of draft capital.
Exactly.
So, that's the thing, is the market's not great. And for Sacramento to get Jeremy Grant, it might take 2 firsts and a Keegan Murray, and I just don't think the Kings are ready to do something like that. I think that would be a bit much for them. So the landscape of the 24 draft kind of dictating the terms a little bit here. And it's not to say Portland hasn't thought about this or already viewed it on a big board and said, okay, this isn't exciting. It's just to kind of point out how what we thought at the beginning of the year was going to happen has now suddenly morphed into, oh, no, this is the team for the year, potentially. Now, again, we'll wait to see. The deadline's looming. Teams can get desperate. But all the intel is that Portland is not moving off Malcolm or Jeremy. Let's pivot out of basketball. Dame's return back. Selfish Brook Lopez. Dame reflecting on his time in Portland. The emotions that people have had today. We've talked a lot about it. Let's go to some NFL odds and ends. Crunch time next on The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Woo! Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainsplumbing.com.
Yeah, last night, man, we talked about it. The Milwaukee Bucks had a real opportunity. They need to win these games. They wanted to win that game. They had just lost in Denver, and they're trying to keep ahead of the Knicks and the Cavaliers, who are both surging right now for at least the 2 seed in the East. They're 5 back of Boston and stinking it up today. It's Brook Lopez, because why would I pass to Dame when it's Brook time, Schultze?
I love your Groot impression. It's not Green Giant, it's Groot.
I don't like that it's Groot. I'm trying to make it Brooke. Who's stinking it up? Brook Lopez, brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Plumbing and electrical service is delightful. Get your time back. Let the pros tackle whatever project you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Plumbing. That's threemountainsplumbing.com. Hey, everybody. Sprague here. You've heard me promote the quality.
on the 10th hole at Eastmoreland.
Crunch Time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness, with memberships as low as $9.99 per month. Find your Crunch Time in Portland, Vancouver, and online at crunch.com.
I want to get to some NFL odds and ends. Ken Barkley's going to join us of You Better You Bet, the BetQL Network, at 8. What's he gambling on this week? How much of it is Super Bowl related versus taking the week off from the old football game? And Seahawks get their guy, Mike McDonald. We'll talk about that. Big games for the Ducks and Beavers in college hoops last night. I saw lines out the door at Northwestern for Caitlin Clark coming to Northwestern last night, becoming the Big Ten all-time leading scorer.
And the second all-time scorer in NCAA history.
Yeah, the cheapest ticket for Northwestern women's basketball with Caitlin Clark in town, $300.
That's more expensive than a Portland Trailblazers ticket. That's crazy.
I hope she's getting all the monies in the NIL because she deserves it. She is everywhere she goes. There are lines out of the arenas to watch her play basketball.
I've seen her in at least 2 or 3 national commercials, so she's doing great.
Oh, she's cleaning up.
Yeah.
And I love that she came back to college. I'm trying to find a Caitlin Clark jersey for my daughter, actually.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I want to get her one. Let's go to the NFL. I don't think there's... I don't know how both of these are true, but they kind of are. Is there anything more important, but also more boring than when your team hires the coach / coordinator of one side of the ball and it's somebody who you have no idea is good or bad at it?
I mean, I don't think it's boring. I think you immediately start to question, like, well, who is this guy? Because I feel like that's what Oregon did with Dan Lanning. Not an NFL example, but plucking guys out of obscurity is always fascinating for me because all the coverage is, usually ESPN's Adam Schefter or some insider has a list of these 8 names that are being interviewed. And it's fascinating to me when these guys come out of nowhere, when we know nothing about them. Usually they've got something and we all find out what it is, pretty quickly.
Well, the Titans are starting a new operation with Brian Callahan of Callahan Auto.
Just got my car repaired down at Callahan Auto, baby. $800 bill.
Woo! But he picked the DC for his team. The Tennessee Titans' new defensive coordinator is Denard Wilson, DB coach of the Ravens. And that's what I'm talking about is like how massive a hire that is. But also, is he going to be a good D coordinator? DB's coach, sure, the Ravens were fine in the secondary. Will that translate? I don't know, but it's also the Ravens, so I think most people just lean yes. I think that's the thing about all of these guys is how unproven they are. Mike McDonald's 36. He was a coordinator for 2 years.
That's fair.
But he also might be one of the best hires of the offseason for anybody. Callahan in Tennessee. I mean, he had Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. He had some weapons to operate that offense with. He also, I believe, wasn't calling the plays. I believe he was scheming, but Zach Taylor was calling plays. So is he going to be amazing? Am I going to see the Bengals offense in Tennessee? All of these hires are important, but it's hard to have a real read if they're truly great hires, good hires. You can feel good about a hire. That doesn't mean it's a good hire. And that's the interesting part of all of this is picking guys that are either just positional coaches or really young with small glimpses of flash. And Tennessee's going to do that with Denard Wilson and Brian Callahan. Again, it might be the right move, but it's kind of a wait and see type deal so much as like, here's the hot take. Denard's amazing. I mean, I'm sure you're going to find players that rant and rave about Denard Wilson in Baltimore. We'll see what he's like as a coordinator. The Philly news is interesting to me. Have you seen the Philly news?
No, not recently, which is bad because I'm doing sports updates, so I hope I didn't miss anything.
No breaking news. Schultze,
okay.
It's loud. It is loud in Philadelphia, PA right now. The rumblings are Sirianni had to get new coordinators, and some believe he was kind of strong-armed into that, probably by Howie Roseman.
Yeah, bringing in Kellen Moore recently. Yes, sir.
New OC. There's a report out that the Eagles are ready for Bill Belichick in the off chance the Sirianni thing doesn't work. And I have an opinion on this, and I have for quite some time. The Florida coach falls into this category. If you're going into the year and like your fan base and the local media and maybe even you are generally not feeling amazing about your coaching situation or putting it on like a win or get out, I tend to believe it doesn't work well usually in those spots. And when you hear rumblings and noise that like the next guy could be up before the guys even come out for the next year, I don't have the most confidence in that situation. It makes me kind of question everything. Like, you're already looking at the next coach, but you want to keep this coach. Okay. Good luck. Jerry Jones in Dallas, same thing. McCarthy and it sounds like Dan Quinn's coming back. Okay. Well, if you lose in the division round again, he's firing him, right? Yeah. Okay. It's just it's a weird game owners and college football programs play, is the backing of a coach when we all kind of know like it's win now or you're gone, and if you don't win enough now, that still isn't good enough. You'll be gone. I never really feel great about that situation.
Well, Philly in general, I mean, look at the last 5 to 7 years there. It's been a tumultuous spot to be a head coach. Doug Peterson, Super Bowl win. 2 years later, you're not doing good enough. I get the need for immediate success in the NFL, but you cannot ever convince me that 2 years removed from winning a Super Bowl, it makes the most sense for your franchise to move on from its head coach. And so from there, you go to Sirianni, and I don't know if it's the owner meddling, if Sirianni's a bad head coach, I don't know which one is leading to this issue, but anytime that you hear about other options being thrown out there in case this guy's bad, you just need to cut bait and just move on then. I don't get why they just don't fire Sirianni if they're having these discussions. Why hold the guy on a hook? Is he, as you just said, there's really not a great history of success with those guys being told win now or you're gone. And Philly, though, seems to live on that whole mentality of this is how we want to win. We're going to put pressure on you.
Well, they're a miserable fan base. They're never happy about anything.
It's the Yankee way, right?
I mean, East Coast people tend to be more passionate and a little more ridiculous about this stuff than us out in the West Coast. And Philly's no different than any other. If not, they're maybe the loudest of all of them. Real quick, Ryan Clark maybe potentially eyeing a Pittsburgh Russell Wilson relationship.
Good luck.
Steelers with Russell Wilson. You do anything for anybody?
Maybe.
Okay, Tomlin's offenses haven't been amazing since he had the triple Bs there.
But he hasn't, hasn't had a quarterback since then.
I'm well aware of that, but their offense was historically bad, which is why he fired Mike Canada last year during the season.
I mean, if you put a gun to my head and said, "Hey, Jordan, you're starting a team
with..." extreme. I wouldn't put a gun to your head.
Well, thank you. Yeah. But if you said you're starting a team with either Mitch Trubisky as your quarterback or Russell Wilson.
Come on. Don't say what you're going to say.
Or Kenny Pickett.
You're taking Russell
Wilson. Thank you. Hey, come on. It's
But
obvious.
you got that contract now, so. And it's just starting this year. It's a 5-year deal.
Well, I know Mike Tomlin as opposed to, I know Sean Payton didn't put up with it either, but the whole Mr. Unlimited stuff would not fly. So I guess it's really, can you get Russell Wilson to play your game? And if no coach in the NFL can get Russell Wilson to come in and act how they want him to act without having an office, without being the guy and Mr. Unlimited and let's ride, then... Yeah, I don't think any coach is going to want him.
Got an NFL coach writing a book about his porn addiction. We've got great audio from one of the legendary radio hosts, and Mike McDonald hired as the coach of the Seahawks. We're going to kick off the final hour with Ken Barkley of You Better You Bet and the BetQL Network. But that was Crunch Time, brought to you by Crunch Fitness, with memberships as low as $9.99 a month. Find Crunch at crunch.com. Hour number 3, Dirt and Sprague on the Fan. because we love college basketball out here, or college football out here. Seahawks got their guy. We've got a football coach who's written about his porn addiction, and we've got just legendary audio from a legend in the business. But speaking of legends in the business, it's time to start our final hour. It is a Thursday, 8 a.m. Ken Barkley of You Better You Bet, the BetQL Network. You can find him on Twitter at Lockie Lockerson. Ken, good morning. You I observed last week watching the Ravens, Chiefs, and Niners, Lions. You seemed a little feisty. You seemed feisty on Twitter, dancing on people that doubted Mahomes and all jumped on the Ravens. What unlocks the feistiness of one social media, Ken Barkley?
It's a great question. I actually kind of regret a lot of it. I feel like I was on a bender almost for like 12 hours before that game. I was really excited for that game, obviously, for Ravens Chiefs. I really liked the Chiefs, and it just seemed like no one else did. I just couldn't. It just seemed like it was such a bizarre morning on Sunday where everything that everyone's saying, pregame shows, social media, it was just like, oh, like the Ravens, like this is like a coronation for the Ravens almost. Mm-hmm. The point spread just kept getting bet out and bet out by smart people too. Like, this is not that I'm smarter than them. I won money on this game. So like, I just, as the line keeps moving, I'm just like, what is going on in this game? I couldn't believe it, honestly, when it started hitting like 5 and 5.5, and it was just, what is going on? And I'm sure you have this happen all the time. I don't usually bet like this. I usually bet because like I like money and I like to make more money and I like to have more money than when I started as much as possible. I don't really ever bet because it's like, well, I don't really care about the money. I want to be right. But I do think a lot of people bet that way, where it's like, I have this opinion. Or like it's the Super Bowl, and like I want to be right. Like this proves that I am a genius. Like I am right about this. And for whatever reason, that game brought like that side out of me, where it's like, no, like I'm not even betting that much for me. Like I want to be right. Like I want them to win because I think they're going to win. And like it's this like it was just this fantastic result. So I feel like I kind of became more like an everyman at that point. I'm sure you have bets like that though, where you're just like whatever you bet, people bet $20 a game, $10 a game, $50 a game, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, okay, like, yeah, the bet is the bet. Also, like, you think a team is going to win, and like, you want, like, it's the victory lap afterwards is almost as good as the bet itself.
It is. And in the off chance and rare chance, very rare chance I get it, I'm with you. It's hard not to kind of go into the Dion high step and cocky sniffing mode. You just get those opportunities more because you're better and smarter at this stuff than I ever will be.
But I don't do them. I usually don't do the Dion high step. Like that was I don't like it. It actually, in most things, it doesn't really appeal to me because it's not usually how I bet. So right. Like NBA most valuable player, right? Which has been a huge topic recently. Mm-hmm. Like I had all of this Embiid. Like I had more Joel Embiid than Joel Embiid did. Probably. Like I had a lot. And at really, really good prices, not prices that existed when he started getting injured. And so, like, as he starts getting hurt, I'm, like, not panicking, but I'm just like, I need to be active because I think he's about to get shut down. Like, this seems like where this was before the Warriors game, before the first night of the back-to-back. I'm like, this all looks terrible. And so I'm like betting a lot of Jokic because I have these Embiid prices at like 10-1, 12-1. Like I'm just going to go bet Jokic. I'm going to go bet SGA. So like there's no victory lap there. Like that's not what it's about. It's about like not being broke. Like when the music stops and actually having the winner. Like there's no tweet about that. You know what I mean? So like, and that's usually what I'm doing. I'm usually in these markets like you bet this price, it goes down. You bet this other guy at a bad price, and you collect these bets, and you just kind of have the winner at the end a lot, and you make a lot of money. There's no. Like, nobody would even understand the victory lap of that. Whereas Chiefs-Ravens, where it's like, no, I didn't even bet the Chiefs against, like, I bet them money line. Like, I bet them to win the game. And so just to nail that, I got to be honest, it felt really good.
Yeah.
It felt really good.
I totally get it, Ken. I do. I tell you, and I know you don't remember because, well, you guys do a damn good show and you probably do a bunch of these hits in a week, but I liked the Chiefs too. And then my small circle was all in on the Chiefs, and I'm like, oh no, we're all on the Chiefs. So I pivot to Ravens, and then it gets to 5 Sunday. I did. You know me, I get spooked really easily. And then Sunday it gets to 5, and I'm like, this is stupid. Like, why did this get to 5? It's still Patrick Mahomes. I don't care if the offense is the defense is amazing, and I haven't seen Baltimore get past a team like Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs yet. 5 seemed a bit extreme. What did you make of? Because I don't want to get in the Lions-Niners. It's like, hey, would you have gone for it or kicked it? Like, everybody's going to have their own opinion on that. What did you think of the initial line? I couldn't believe it. I was admittedly somewhat surprised San Francisco opened as the favorite, given ESPN.com, publications like them. It's an overwhelming Chiefs pick here. Even with a small number, I was still surprised San Francisco was favored.
I think, and this is the Super Bowl you're talking about against the Chiefs, like how that market opened, right? So, and it's interesting, right? The opener comes out and it's Niners -3. Very predictably, I think people bet the Chiefs +3 right away. This was on like Sunday night, right after the Lions game. Those threes are probably never going to be seen again because they would just get bet again a lot right away. So it's Niners by a little bit, but I think a lot of people are going to frame it the way you did, and it's not wrong. Like, you're right. More people are going to want to bet the Chiefs than are going to want to bet the Niners in number, right? Like, on earth, more people are going to want to bet the Chiefs than bet the Niners, just like volume. But like, to me, it's more this game is behaving like all the Chiefs playoffs games, where from like a power rating standpoint, or like projecting the score of the game, which a lot of people try to do, which a lot of websites try to do. You've got ratings like DVOA, which is like team quality, which is like it's like all this stuff's really cool. It's not even to knock it, but all of it in every Chiefs playoff game so far, especially the Bills game, as like the Dolphins game is weird because the Dolphins were hurt and it was -30 degrees. So that market's going to behave a little differently. But the Bills game, the Ravens game, and this game are all the same in that the season-long ratings are going to tell you that the Chiefs are bad. They're going to tell you that they're not very good because they didn't play very well. Get defensive touchdowns to the Raiders, and they lose that game. Offense, guys dropping passes all the time. They lose that game to the Eagles. They lose to the Bills when the lateral gets called back. They didn't have a very good season by their standards, and the teams that they're playing are like the best of the best. I mean, really, their path to the Super Bowl, if they win this game, a lot of people have measured this, it will be the most difficult path any Super Bowl winner has ever had in terms of team quality of the opponents that they face along the way. The Niners and Ravens are historically good in terms of how they played in the regular season. So my first Super Bowl thought is just, this is business as usual for this postseason. The Chiefs are underdogs in the game because they didn't have a good regular season. People that like bet on rating and bet on like team quality are going to really like the opponent. They're going to like the Bills. They're going to like the Ravens a lot. They're going to like the Chiefs or the Niners a lot. And the same thing has happened every time, which is that the Chiefs have outperformed their rating. They're playing better right now than they played in the regular season. I'm not overthinking this. I think this is the exact same handicap in this game, which is overall over the course of the regular season, the Niners were better than this number. They were better than 2 points better than the Chiefs. They were actually more than that over the course of the regular season. That's why they're getting bet. That's why the Ravens got bet. But Chiefs aren't playing the same way right now. They're playing much better. This was always supposed to be the most complete version of Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Spent draft capital on the defense in a really good way, and Spags is using it really well. The receivers haven't really worked out, but the skeleton on offense that they've discovered, where it's Pacheco, Kelsey, Rashee Rice, and no one else ever, and it's just those three guys, that's been working. And so it's almost like they're like the hot team. They're like the team that gets hot at the end of the season and runs through the playoffs, except like we're not thinking about them that way because it's Patrick Mahomes, but that's what they've been. They're the hot team. Like, they're the team that figured it out with a couple weeks to go in the season, and the ratings are never going to capture that. The markets are never going to capture that because we had so many games where they didn't look very good.
Ken Barkley, You Better You Bet, BetQL Network, our guest every Thursday at 8 a.m. You alluded to something at the top with the MVP stuff because Embiid has Kuminga fall on his knee, and I'm with you. It looked awful. If he's not out for the rest of the year, he's done in the MVP. Some boards took him off the board entirely, so it's not even like an option anymore. You hit on somebody that his odds aren't amazing today. I'm looking right now. I'm seeing 3-1 out here. You know, most books it's 3-1 or plus 250. SGA and the MVP stuff. Jokic is clearly the favorite, and I totally do get it. But when you look at standings, you look at like the way voters can sometimes operate, I think, in that sport. I'm just wondering, like, if Oklahoma City tops Minnesota and gets the 1 seed, SGA's averaging 30 and 7 and 3 steals a game. Like, this is a first-team All-NBA guy. How do you feel about that MVP market? Is it just Jokic to you, or do you think SGA's got some real legs here at 3-1?
Well, I think it's Jokic right now is probably the best way to put it, right? So the last Tim Bontemps ESPN straw poll was a long time ago, but it was Embiid 1 and Jokic 2, and basically nobody else even got first place votes, to tell you like how far behind, not like the Jokic Embiid difference, that doesn't matter anymore, but that SGA didn't sniff a first place vote basically in the poll. So there was a big gap between Jokic and SGA at that moment, and that was about a little more than a month ago. The next poll will likely come out in 2 weeks at the All-Star break. Jokic will be ahead. Like you can almost guarantee that right now. And Embiid probably won't be featured in the poll, or it'll be like massaged in a way where like, well, he's ahead, but we have to remove him. Like, I don't know how they're going to do it, but Jokic will be ahead, like of the people who can actually win. I guess my question, and this speaks to what you're saying, great. Like he's ahead right now. Everyone has pivoted to him because it's the obvious, like easy next step. When we get to the end of the season, voters are really weird with this stuff. Mm-hmm. They like new stuff.
Yes.
Voters in all sports with all awards. This is actually one of my things in the Super Bowl is I think if the Chiefs win, I think Mahomes is unlikely to win Super Bowl MVP because he's won twice already and his stat lines in the playoff games haven't been what you would expect. And if he has another game like that, I think it's actually pretty likely someone else is going to win. I have a couple ideas about who that is.
Yeah.
Well, Kelsey, we get into all that. I think Kelsey's very live.
Yeah.
Well, the fans account for 20% of the vote for Super Bowl MVP. I don't know if people know that.
Swifties.
So if Kelsey is good in the game, he will get 99% of 20% of the vote.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big advantage to have when the media is the other 80%. So like, I think there's some other ways it can go. And again, Mahomes has won twice. His stat line will likely not be as good as it was in those Super Bowls because that's not the team they are right now. Look at the stat lines in the other games. So, like, I think he's gettable, and I think people are ready for something new if they get the opportunity to do it. I feel the same way about this. If you give me SGA on like a good run in the second half of the season, or you give me Luka goes crazy and they actually start winning a lot more. They can't be what they are right now. They have to be better. But if you give me somebody new and interesting, I think Jokic can be beat because I think, like, look, he won 2. If you look at the history of the NBA, there are only 2 players in the last 40 years who won multiple and then had a year where they didn't win, and then voters went back to them again. Like, they had their run, they won their MVPs, they took time off, like they didn't win MVP, and then voters were like, no, let's give you some more MVPs. And it's literally Jordan and LeBron, and that's it. So, like, is Jokic that? Or is it, man, maybe people talk themselves into something new, like if it gets close. So I think Jokic is the easy answer, but look, 35 games left. Jokic isn't exactly going to stump for himself to win. He doesn't care. So if he doesn't care, I don't know, people are going to just kind of start meandering to other candidates. I think it could actually get pretty weird by the end of the season.
I'll give you 2 sneaky ones. And again, to your point about the voters, the way all this works, I largely agree with everything you're saying. I'm trying to look for value too, and like how you capitalize on that bet. I'll get you out here with this one. 2 names that I'm keeping an eye on, and their odds are interesting. Jalen Brunson and the Knicks, like, New York, anytime they're relevant, it's a good story. They're the 3 seed right now. Milwaukee's tripping all over themselves. They lost to Portland last night. And the other one, I have to go look at his games played. He's getting 100-1, and that's Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers are only 2 back of the 1 seed, and he has been awesome this year. So those seem like real long shots compared to like what you say, Luka and Giannis and Jokic and Shea. But they're also like back of my mind. I could kind of see it if they make the right presses. New York is the 2 seed in the East. LA is the 1 seed in the West, and Kawhi is eligible with games played. Long odds, sure, but they're interesting names to think about given where their teams are.
Yeah, sure. And I think what I would emphasize is I think you kind of toss out the rule book or like how history has gone with this year. Like Embiid won this year. Like that's what happened. Like this year is about him. He's the best scoring, like he's having the best scoring season ever. He just won't get the trophy at the end. But this is like the Embiid season. This is the second MVP. It's just not going to be awarded to him. So if that's the case, and this is like not a phony award, but like we all know what this is, then it can go to someone weird that doesn't make a lot of sense, I think. I think that brings in a lot of bizarre options. So, yeah, like usually you want a guy in like all the all-in-one statistical, like, PER and all these plus minuses. Like you want the guy who's like number 1 or number 2, and that's Jokic or SGA or Giannis or Luka. They're like 1, 2, 3, and 4 in all of these stats. So Kawhi and Brunson and Jason Tatum, like they're never going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4. They're just not. So in some ways, it's like, I think it's a no for me, but I also have to kind of keep in mind, like look, the guy who kind of won isn't going to win. So maybe voters are like, F it, let's just do something weird. Like, who cares almost? Like, this is the guy who actually won.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to Jason Tatum because the Celtics win 65 games. Or I'm going to give it to Jalen Brunson because I like the Knicks and they're a fun story. I think maybe voters will be more likely to put aside how they normally do evaluation because this is just such a weird year. And, like, the winner is not the guy who's actually going to get the trophy.
Ken, I got to get you out of here. I want to give you a heads up. So we had an ice storm hit on the West Coast a while back.
No. DeAndre Ayton okay?
DeAndre got to the stadium and the arena last night okay. The ice melted enough down his driveway.
Yeah.
I want to give you a heads up. I am shipping you out the gift basket I owe you from the Michigan college football.
Boy. Yeah.
I have your address on a sticky
what
note.
What are you doing? By sled dog? What's taking you so long? Yeah, sure.
Well, I'm trying to see what Brown can do for me. I still have your address. It's on my laptop. It's actually aging. This piece of paper is like withering away. It's been on my laptop for 2 weeks. So I will be sending that out to you. Hopefully you get it before you're on next Thursday with a Super Bowl edition of the show.
Sure. I'll be live in Vegas. So I'll look for the package when I get back from the trip, and I'll see you in a week, and we'll talk about the Super Bowl.
All right. There we go. Good stuff, Ken. Thanks for hopping on with us. We always appreciate it every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. There we go. Ken Barkley, You Better You Bet, BetQL Network. Went way over it with him. Back with the Seahawks' new coach, Mike McDonald, the guy that they chose to be the new coach, from the oldest coach to the youngest coach, next on The Fan.
The Fan invites you to play in the first annual Fan Winter Golf Classic at X Golf Tualatin and X Golf Vancouver, Tuesday, February 27th. The afternoon round at X Golf Tualatin is almost sold out, and the others are filling up fast.
Let's go while we're young.
Danny and Dusty and Isaac and Suk will broadcast live. Fabulous prizes are on the line, including a foursome at this summer's 10th annual Fan Golf Classic. Sign your threesome up now at 1080thefan.com.
Now, here's a quick look at Portland traffic.
Really slow traffic on the Sunset Highway eastbound. It starts well before Murray. That will continue over to 405, a crash near the tunnel. The culprit southbound 5 slows before SR 500 all the way to the Motor Center. That's traffic. I'm David Bruce.
This traffic report brought to you by Katie Car Washes. The de-icing and anti-icing liquid laid down on winter roads can harm metal and wiring on your vehicle. Not to mention the oil, brake dust, and other damaging elements thrown onto your car's surface. The answer? Frequent washing at your nearest Katie Car Wash.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank members.
All right, we got some Ducks and Beavers basketball to talk about. We've got fun with audio to get to from the NFC title game. It is dated, yes, but I still want to play it. We have breaking news, Schultze, out of the world of National Football League. Am I supposed to read anything for that? Or, do we have an update? Do you know?
Oh, like breaking news brought to you.
Well, I don't know if I don't know if that's still valid. Okay.
Don't ask me. I'm not Swag.
All right.
He would know.
I actually don't know if Swag would know at this point.
He would know more than I do.
Breaking news brought to you on The Fan by The Fan.
Boom.
Commies have hired Dan Quinn. They got the former DC of the Dallas Cowboys and head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. 28-3 lead. Super Bowl. He is now going to be lead man for the Washington Commanders. Harris and Peters nabbed their guy. You do wonder, and the Seahawks hired Mike McDonald yesterday, D coordinator from the Ravens, who's 36 years old, 2 great years with Baltimore. Baltimore's defense was stout. I don't think in any way this is a reflection of Mike McDonald, the coach, because we've never seen him as a head coach. What I found interesting, because I like to snoop in and listening to Seahawk-based things and reading Seahawk-based things, they like it because who doesn't want a nasty defense, right? The Legion of Boom helped them win their Super Bowl. I feel like I've heard and seen a lot of, and he made Brock Purdy look pretty awful. Yeah, he had a great game, one game. And so, I feel like a small segment of Seahawks fan is, just clinging on. He shut a Shanahan offense down. Okay. McVay dialed it up pretty well on that unit in Baltimore in the rain. So, all right. But it might be a great hire. I'm not trying to say what it is or is not. I found it interesting that the Ravens slobber knocked the Niners. But deflections land in defenders' hands, and they didn't look good, but it was one game. And the Chiefs' offense has been relatively pedestrian, and they could not guard Travis Kelce. So, Mike McDonald, I like the hire. Let me just say for the record, in case this sounds like I'm saying the opposite. But it's a big roll of the dice. He's 36 years old. I like that they're going young. They went from oldest to youngest. Youngest coach now is Mike McDonald. The Commies feel like they wanted him or Johnson from Detroit. Johnson chose to go back. Unfinished business, he says. And so they go with, veteran, seasoned coach Dan Quinn, defensive guy, and you've got the number 2 pick in the draft. Is that Jaden Daniels? Is that Drake May? That's kind of the debate right now, and many like May, but Daniels is shooting up in many mocks and getting a lot of recognition or consideration. Mike McDonald in Seattle, Dan Quinn in Washington. How do we feel about the hires, Schultze?
I like it. I think Dan Quinn to Washington is, for that franchise, it's probably the best coach that they could get in this cycle. I was kind of toying around with the idea I wonder if old Belichick or maybe Pete Carroll has kicked the tires around, talking to Washington. But you wonder.
Belichick tried.
Yeah.
He tried.
You wonder if a new owner, buying the team, he's lobbying the NFL. He doesn't want to be the Commanders anymore. He thinks he got stuck with a crappy name. You wonder if a new owner wants to bring in just a totally new regime, and that means younger. But I like this experienced hire. But you know what? Ron Rivera was an experienced hire too. And people look at that, but then I say, hey, Ron Rivera succeeded with Cam Newton in Carolina. And for some reason, it's like Dan Snyder thinks, oh, well, he can do that without Cam here in Washington. No, you can't. Jay Gruden, I guess you could go back and make the argument they should have just signed Kirk Cousins to an extension. Maybe they wouldn't be in the situation they are now quarterback-wise.
That's a long time ago, though. They moved on from that.
They moved on, but they've been pretty much irrelevant since then, right? What's the best
Taylor Heineke.
Thank you. That's the best name at quarterback under center, Taylor freaking Heineke. I think of a Heineken when I think of that guy. So, and if I think of beer when I'm thinking of a quarterback, he ain't a very good quarterback. It's just been a lot of crap for them for a lot of years.
Is that a fact? fact. Like if a quarterback makes you think of a beer, it means he's not going to be a good quarterback.
If his name, before he steps on the field, if his name just invokes a beer, like at the end of John Elway's career, he was doing those old Coors Banquet beer commercials like, hey, when I settle down at the end of a day, I like a good Coors Banquet beer, but he had already won a Super Bowl. So yes, I think that the Heineke rule stands. But
no Vrabel. Nobody hired Vrabel. He was out there. He wanted it.
That's the question.
Chargers go Harbaugh. Commies Dan Quinn. Seahawks go Mike McDonald. Falcons go Raheem Morris.
Is Vrabel not able to get along with his superiors? Is there something there?
Him and that
behind the scenes?
Was it Ron Cathron? I think he's a former 49er guy.
Okay.
There seemed to be some rumblings. The relationship was had become unraveled a little bit at the end. I don't know if that means Vrabel can't. Somebody's going to get Mike Vrabel. He's going to get a job next year. It just, for some reason, wasn't in the cards for him in this cycle. So Dan Quinn hired by the Commies, Mike McDonald, in Seattle, 36 years old. We got defensive guys leading the charge in Washington and Seattle. Fun with audio. How we feel about this rant in sports radio. We'll get to that. A coach admits to a porn addiction, and Ducks and Beavers basketball on tonight. All of that's next on The Fan.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
This update is brought to you by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Good or bad weather, the golf course is always the driest around. Download the Langdon Farms app today to get all the latest news and specials. First on The Fan, breaking news in the NFL this morning. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, the Washington Commanders are hiring Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn to be their next head coach. The Cowboys defense led the NFL with 90 forced turnovers in 2023. More bad news in Baltimore after defensive coordinator Mike McDonald left the franchise to become the next coach of the Seahawks. The Titans pilfering another Ravens defensive coach, this time D-backs coach Denard Wilson leaving. He's going to head to Tennessee to be the next defensive coordinator under Brian Callahan. Elsewhere, the Green Bay Packers hiring Boston College head coach Jeff Hafley to be their next defensive coordinator. He went 22-26 in 4 seasons with the Eagles. And on the hardwood, the Portland Trailblazers spoiling Damian Lillard's homecoming. They topped the Milwaukee Bucks last night, 119-116. Dame finishing up with 25. But the story for Portland was Ant Simons. He led the way for the Blazers with 24, including a clutch floater in the final 20 seconds. In a pregame press conference, Lillard expressed that he's open to returning to the Blazers to finish his career. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Schulte from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Get in the game at Spirit Mountain Casino. Watch and wager on all the pro football playoff action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
One number does it all for contests and texting your favorite fan shows. The Vancouver Ford text line is 503-864-6FAN.
Hey guys, Valentine's Day is coming up. Listen to this deal for family.
Hoops on tonight. If that so interests Duck and Beaver fans out there.
You going to be watching?
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on it.
All right. No football tonight, so why not?
I think me and Morangatang are doing a Jack Ramsey's post. Dame was here. How did we feel? He was there. He talked to Dame.
Ooh, that's a must listen. I gotta catch that.
Okay. Well, I would appreciate that. If you miss any of the show, by the way, you can catch our podcast at 1080thefan.com under the podcast section, or catch the YouTube show. All the shows that are all live on YouTube. We're live on YouTube right now. I'd like to wave hello to my mom. She actually doesn't really know what YouTube is, and I don't think she even knows what radio station I work at. But if you miss a show on YouTube, you can go back and rewatch the whole thing because once it's not live anymore, it's recorded and documented. I am a big fan of audio. It's why I'm in radio, and I'm also a big fan of this radio host who's based out of New York, and he's one of the legendary voices in our industry. Whether you hate him, you find him kind of annoying, You do have to appreciate when he gives you some nuggets, some gold nuggets. And I had this 2 days ago, and I forgot to play it. So I wanted to get to it with you, Schulte. It's about 1:40, but it is one of my favorites. Chris Mad Dog Russo.
Gem in our business.
Oh, it's so fantastic. He was quite upset by the Lions' decision to go for it every time on 4th down. And so we've got this beauty.
If you are a Lions fan, you tell me right now, for the next month, when they get this game played and everything else, the month of February, what are you going to be thinking about? Beat Baker Mayfield or the fact you had the Niners dead to rights? My God almighty! Pay attention, Campbell! Jesus, I mean, this is ridiculous. And I know we like you, Dan. You're a nice guy. You represent the city of Detroit. Blue collar. Tough. Oh, we get all the nonsense. But manage the game properly. You have a chair. I understand it's a long field goal, 2 40-yarders, but your kicker's good. You have you got a chance to go back up by 3 scores, and you go for it on 4th down, and then all the dopes on Twitter are backing you up. The data freaks who wouldn't know Lombardi for Paul Brown. Never heard of Otto Graham. Kenny Stabler. Madden. Wouldn't know him if they fell on him. They do football via math. That's not how you do football. Oh, my God, what a loss. And America wanted Detroit to win. We've seen this game before. Nobody wanted the Niners to win outside of the Bay Area, and half the place was Detroit fans anyway. My God. You're that desperate to get your money back with the season ticket prices? It was Honolulu blue in that building. But goodness gracious, nobody wants to see Sanford. We've seen San Francisco, Kansas City. And what happened after that? A 2-year pandemic. 2 months later. I don't want to see that game again. I wanted Lions in there. And Campbell screwed it up. Somewhere upstairs. Lombardi, say to the good Lord, don't they ever learn? Vince, they don't. The data freaks, they do football via math. That's not how you do football. I wanted Lions in there who wouldn't know Lombardi for Paul Brown. Never heard of Otto Graham. Kenny Stabler. Madden. Wouldn't know him if they fell on him.
They fell.
Data freaks. That I think that's the drop of
the data freaks.
Oh my God!
I'll tell you right now. I'm changing the opinion. I love Chris Mad Dog Russo. He does entertain me. I was of the belief that the second 4th down they should have kicked it because of the time, the place, the moment. Analytics be damned. That rant actually flips me to become
the data freaks.
I'd go for it. You know what? If he's going to feel that strongly about you kicking a field goal, I think I'm going to the other side of this. I think now I have flipped the opinion. Who wants a tie game in the NFC title game? I'm going to become
the data freaks.
I'm joining that club.
I don't know. I think I'm on Mad Dog's side.
Are you?
I didn't think they should have kicked the field goals in the first place. So, yeah.
No, then you'd be against Mad Dog.
Oh, well, then I guess I'm on your side. Then how the hell? All right. You know what? He's so confusing that I actually didn't understand the side that he was on.
We all know why.
I wanted Lions in there.
You wanted Lions in there.
I get it. You wanted him to win. Oh, okay. He's hilarious. He's a gem that needs to be protected, and there's a reason he makes millions of dollars a year. I used to hate him. Now I love Mad Dog. This is the reason.
You don't have to listen to the full show. Sometimes times the audio surfaces, and I'm like, yo, that is well done, Mad Dog Russo. Dave Canales, the new coach of the Panthers, we found out he has a book out that him and his wife co-wrote. And evidently in this book, he basically talks about how he was addicted to porn. He was an alcoholic, and he's cheated on his wife almost too many times to count, including on his bachelor party. And when asked about if he had unprotected you-know-what, he said, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, he's got a family, and it's a big God book. You know, Jesus brought us together. Dungy says, I'm glad that they kept the relationship together instead of letting it wither away. And Dave Canales, big porn guy, big sex addict.
Big porn guy, big I'm going to cheat on my wife guy.
Not anymore. He says they've become a godlike marriage.
Sounds like there was a time before they got married, during their marriage. He continuously was cheating on his wife.
He was slanging the snake. Yeah, he was taking the wedding ring off at the bar, on late nights, working out at the office. There's a great blurb in one of the write-ups for this book. And it's a quote from the mom, his mother-in-law, and she basically, when they found out he was cheating, he had to go, talk and tell the family, not just the wife. You're trying to address this and fix this problem, this addiction. The mother-in-law goes, the first time when she heard that he had cheated, she goes, I knew I didn't like you.
Oh, wow.
Anytime the mother-in-law is saying that, it's an uncomfortable position to be in.
And her daughter stayed with this man. Wow.
Yeah, she's helped by all accounts, it sounds like maybe he's beaten the addictions. And if he has, God bless that guy. But the new Panthers coach, I can't wait to see the press conference because questions are going to be asked about that. Not a lot, but probably some. Big porn addiction and alcoholic guy. Cheating on the wife.
I mean, you know what? If that is all in the past, because that is just ass behavior. Don't do that. Like really, people
quite literally ass behavior.
Quite literally, but possibly bringing home an STD to your significant other that you're lying about. That is, that's assault, and I do think that can be charged in some states as assault. That is a crime. Don't come on.
Cheating on your wife?
No, bringing home if you get an STD and then you knowingly give that to another partner.
They've been checked. They're clean.
Without telling.
They got tested together when he admitted what he did.
They're lucky. But I guess I'd rather him focus on just working a full day, knowing that he's not going to be doing this now. Like if I'm hiring a coach as the Panthers.
Well, it sounds like this is a couple years ago.
No, this book was out. So I know that he's going to be putting in the hours. I'd rather that than an Urban Meyer, staying behind after the team loses and then going and, getting sat on by some hottie while he's married and everybody sees it.
Right.
Doesn't sound like this is going to be happening with this dude, although there's fodder for days with, it's pretty funny. I mean, let's just be honest. Like these stories.
You don't get coaches coming out with a book with their wife, co-writing it, saying, I love sex.
Exactly.
Love porn.
The cheating on his wife isn't the funny part.
You get the Rex Ryan videos once in a while, but you don't get a book that's written about it.
No, I'm a porn addict. Sorry, when I hear that from an NFL football coach, that's hilarious.
I wouldn't say hilarious. It seems like it was a dark place for him to be in. According to the book, it didn't seem like a place he was happy in. Well, then
I need to read the book and get some more context.
You can read the book if you want. I kind of gave you most of the context.
A lot of these stories tend to be a little more funny, but this obviously sounds like it has a dark context.
Ducks and Beavers on the road. Los Angeles trip, college basketball. Next on The Fan.
The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
winter, we can leave your friends behind.
I think it's a good point on Dave Canales. On porn being very addictive, serious thing, not good for you. Best way of getting rid of habit is talking about it. Proud that man changed his ways, no doubt.
I agree with that. I think when I say it's funny, we were talking about this during the break, just the life that these guys lead and the temptations that are thrown out to them. I find it comical hearing on the other end all of the different stories. Some of them are good. Some of them, obviously, they come from a darker place. So yeah, good for him. But it definitely sounds like this guy came from the religious world. I am not surprised. I went to church as a kid, and this sounds like a lot of adults at the church that I went to.
We've got college hoops with a great deal at stake. We've got Oregon is getting ready. They're on the road tonight, Oregon State. They're down in the L.A. I always like this trip, going down to the Los Angeles schools, USC and UCLA. Oregon State at UCLA. That's going to be a 7:30 tip on the Pac-12 network. And Oregon is going to be on ESPN, taking on Bronny James and company at USC. Oregon is 14-6, 6-3. They just split the Arizona schools. Oregon State with a nice weekend for both men's and women's programs. They're looking to try to build off it standing-wise in conference. Oregon State's not good. Jordan Pope has been named National Player of the Week from his performance against the Arizona schools. He's on fire right now. Big opportunity. Both schools should, Oregon State, let's see. Oregon should be able to take care of USC. They should, theoretically, and give themselves a shot to get to 7-3 in conference and try to keep up with Arizona at the top of the conference.
Yeah, Oregon's all healthy now, right? They got their three and Nafali Dante and Cousinard and Jackson Shellstad. So I'm expecting a good game tonight.
Cousinard's been really good.
Yes, he has. I think him and Dante combined for 49 last week during one game. Like, those guys, when they're on, they're on. And it sucks that the Ducks just aren't better, because I would love to see this group, kind of a nice, just a ragtag bunch of players in the NCAA tournament could make a move. But
you don't think they're good enough? 6-3. They might be 7-3 tonight. They're right there with Arizona in the standings. I looked top 25. Alabama somehow is 14-6, exact same record, but college basketball plays by different metrics.
Exactly.
And they're 14-6 in the top 25. So Oregon is basically a pseudo top 25-ish program right now, and they might move to 7-3.
Possibly, but they've got to continue the success, because Oregon does not get the same respect in the college basketball world as the football world. As you said, it's many different metrics. Conferences have different, elite status over others. The Pac-12 is not one of those elite conferences in college basketball.
Be very curious to see. Wayne Tinkle has an ability from time to time to kind of reel off some right when you think it's the most dead.
Yes, he does.
The Elite Eight run is a great example. They were not good that year. And then they went on that magical run in the Pac-12 conference. They caught fire, got into the tournament by winning the conference outright, and went all the way to Elite Eight. I've been a little concerned of where the program is sat. It's kind of left me feeling a little meh. Like, I know Oregon is going to be near or at the top of this conference just from a competing standpoint, despite not going to the tournament last year. We know Dana Altman's, pedigree. This is a really key time for Wayne Tinkle in Oregon State. You're coming off of winning two big games, one of which was a walk-off. You're a 10.5-point dog at UCLA, who's not having a great year for themselves. It's a big opportunity for Jordan Pope and company to surprise them. TNT games, Lakers at Celtics, doesn't do much for me. And Sixers at Jazz, no Joel Embiid.
Yeah, why? I don't know.
So not great games. You do have Cleveland, who's been red hot as of late. They're at Memphis, who somehow is winning games without Ja Morant. And Pacers at Knicks, a nice little 90s throwback with the Pacers and Pascal Siakam. And the Knicks are having a great run for themselves as they're fighting up the standings. So you got that in the NBA. I'm sure you got a full slate in the NHL as well. That's going to do it for us. I want to get to some more Senior Bowl stuff. I didn't get to that today. I had a guest for it, and then they couldn't do it. So hopefully I can reschedule that for tomorrow and dive in. There was a Michael Penix shoving Kalen DeBoer's hand off him in a picture. Oh, it's kind of testy. Oh, Penix sticking up for his guys, and UW. Get out of here, Kalen DeBoer. But we'll dive into some more of that, some NBA, and it's going to be a loaded show. Sprague and Line as well tomorrow. That's going to do it for us. Thanks for listening. Catch the show if you missed any of it at 1080theFan.com, and we'll talk to you tomorrow morning. Dirt and Sprague on Portland Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan.
I'm Nick Ashew with BetQL. So we're a little over a week